The girl had just entered the bathroom when suddenly water fell from the ceiling. Immediately after that, a female ghost suddenly appeared. But strangely, the girl was not afraid at all, and she even subdued the ghost. However, when the girl was about to leave, a group of male students entered, which temporarily prevented the girl from going out. At this moment, the female ghost suddenly sensed that someone was about to die. It forgot all the girl's instructions and rushed out. An unfortunate boy was chosen as its target. The girl could not wait for the boys to leave the bathroom anymore. She rushed out, pressed the talisman on the faucet, and started spraying water on the female ghost. Affected by the power of the talisman, the female ghost ran around miserably, and after a while, it completely disappeared. The girl still leisurely looked at the unfortunate boy and smiled innocently. Song-hee was the adopted daughter of a famous shaman, and thanks to her innate ability, she could see all demons. That day, she was invited to exorcise a young man who was possessed by a demon. The demon's power seemed to be very strong, and Song-hee was the fourth person to come here, three of whom had failed and left before. While Song-hee was performing the exorcism, the alarm rang. The butler didn't know where the sound came from, so she kept looking for it, afraid that it would affect Song-hee's performance of the ritual. At this moment, she suddenly stopped and remembered that it was her alarm. The clock showed 7:30. Although coaxing the demon to reincarnate was important, it was still not as important as the midterm exam. Although Song-hee was a shaman, she was still a high school student. After Song-hee tried many methods from persuasion to threats, but the demon still refused to listen. Song-hee had no choice but to abandon everything and run as fast as she could to school. Because Song-hee missed the bus, she had to borrow a bike from the side of the road. But when Song-hee arrived, the school gate was closed, and she had to climb over the wall. Luckily, her close friend Ji-ho came to her aid in time. Otherwise, Song-hee would have fallen to the ground. Ji-ho even humorously said that he was waiting for Song-hee to come to replace him as the person with the lowest score in the class. Everything happened just as Ji-ho predicted. Song-hee did extremely badly on the test. Before she even finished, time was up and she could only randomly circle the last questions. After Song-hee finished the test, she felt helpless because no university would dare to accept her at this rate. That night, Song-hee decided to stay at school to review, but she studied little and slept a lot. The male student Bo-min was studying hard when he had a stomachache. Even though he had a cleanliness problem, he still had to go to the school bathroom. While Bo-min was complaining, he discovered that water was seeping into his shoulder, and a long-haired female ghost was slowly lowering herself from the ceiling of the bathroom. Bo-min was scared and immediately ran away. He ran into the classroom to tell his friends about this story. However, no one believed him. Everyone thought it was just a joke of Bo-min's. Ji-ho even gestured to indicate that Bo-min's acting was very good. His screams also woke Song-hee up. On the way home, Song-hee met the spirit of Boss Chang. Again, he was sitting on the roof of the barbecue signboard. Song-hee told herself that she would help him to be liberated soon. She just needed a little more time. As soon as Song-hee got home, she saw her guests surrounding the house. While everyone was not paying attention, Song-hee broke into the house in her own way. She thought she hadn't been discovered, but when Song-hee was about to leave, her mother called her back. The shaman Sehan heard about Song-hee leaving the ceremony halfway. Sehan was about to scold her daughter, but Song-hee acted spoiled, leaving her helpless. She also wanted to let her mother know about her intention to take the university entrance exam. Sehan just felt that her daughter was delusional. For other children, going to university might be a life goal or an opportunity, but Song-hee had the special ability to become a good shaman. She couldn't be a shaman and go to university at the same time, because doing many things at once would only make her fail. Song-hee knew what her mother said was right, but going to university was like a dream to her. She had always wanted to roll around in the schoolyard, eat scallion pancakes, and drink rice wine, but now, Song-hee couldn't do it because of her special ability. Sehan looked at her daughter thoughtfully. She couldn't bear to see her daughter sad because of this. If Song-hee had asked her mother for permission, then she would have agreed. That meant that Song-hee had to do both jobs at the same time, and she had to be responsible for her job as a shaman. She couldn't abandon her customers like today. The agreement between mother and daughter was signed. Butler Kim outside had started to turn on the lights to welcome the guests. Although Song-hee was a shaman, she had to work as a counselor and a psychologist. Sometimes it was already 1 a.m. and Song-hee still had customers. The next night, Song-hee still had to serve a large number of customers. Sehan stood watching for a moment and remarked that Song-hee had made a lot of money again today. At this time, an old lady asked if this was Song-hee's palace. Sehan answered while looking at the face of the young man walking next to the old lady. The young man was very handsome, but there was something wrong. Then the old lady and the young man quickly entered the palace. As soon as Jeonwoo opened the door and walked in, Song-hee was shocked because he was really handsome, just like her ideal. Song-hee thought that even if he walked backwards, he would still be very handsome. Thinking of this, Song-hee was a little startled because she saw Jeonwoo Woo walking backwards. Why was this scene similar to her dream last night? Could it be that it was a premonition for Song Hee? Because Woo often had bad luck, his grandmother brought her grandson here to ask for a talisman. Song Hee didn't say anything but just looked at Woo. She really felt sorry for this handsome man because Song Hee saw that Woo could only live for 21 more days. She asked what Woo would do if he saw someone crying. Woo said whatever he thought, he would just stand by until the person stopped crying, because Woo didn't know what to do to comfort them, but he would still stand by that person because that was all he could do. This was the answer Song Hee wanted. She suddenly grabbed the old lady's hand and promised to save Woo. He would be free from his bad luck in 3 weeks. After Woo and his grandmother left, Sehan came in and reprimanded her daughter. Song Hee knew that she would have a hard time with Woo's case, so she was planning to ask her mother for help. Sehan reminded Song Hee of the incident with the meat shop owner. At that time, Song Hee had to face all the evil spirits attacking the shop owner alone. No matter how powerful Sehan was, she could not fight against hundreds of ghosts. Moreover, those who went against the temple had no way to be saved. At that time, the law of equal exchange would apply. If Song Hee wanted to save Woo, she would have to bet her life. No matter how much Sehan said, Song Hee was still stubborn and wanted to change the arrangement of creation. When Sehan heard her daughter say that Woo was a very special person, she fell in love with him at first sight. Sehan was speechless. The next morning, something shocking happened. Song Hee's class had a new transfer student. It was a bit strange to transfer schools while having just finished midterm exams. At this time, Song Hee was still lying on her desk because she knew for sure that her exam was not good. When Song Hee heard the whole class talking, she looked up and saw that the new student was her guest from last night. This surprise surprised Song so much that she stood up. Her action surprised everyone. Woo saw Song Hee being teased by her friends, so he said that he and she had met before. However, when leaving school, Woo still didn't want to talk to Song Hee. He even specifically reminded her not to laugh when being teased like that. Then he turned around and walked away. At that moment, Song Hee felt that Woo was very good. When she told Jiho about this, he reminded Song Hee that Woo had walked back into the palace. No matter how much Song Hee liked Woo, he would die. Of course, Song Hee had to have a way to save him. Jiho was curious about the solution she had just mentioned when the class president Hee-ji ran over and intervened between the two. Song Hee forced a smile. Because she didn't want to get into trouble, Song Hee immediately pushed Jiho to study with Hee-ji. When Song Hee recalled what Woo said to her in class, she felt that he had really matured. She even felt that he was more worthy of being a shaman than she was. That night, on her way home, Song Hee discovered that Boss Chang was deliberately shaking the signboard to kill Woo. He wanted Woo to take his place. She immediately ran to save Woo. However, she didn't know that Woo was already used to these kinds of unfortunate events. His skills were quite good, so Song Hee saving him was causing trouble for Woo. Before leaving, he even blamed her for being a person who liked to meddle in other people's business. Even though Song Hee was scolded by him, she was not offended. Song Hee went to Huang Palace to ask for advice from a master who was better than her. She did not forget to mention her mother to gain his trust. However, Miss Huang was determined not to make a talisman for Song Hee because Song Hee's mother's main deity was General Dong Tian. She had a heavenly dragon saber, so Mr. Huang was very afraid of offending her. If something happened to him while making a talisman for Song Hee, his life would be in danger. But when Song Hee put the money on the table, everything was quickly resolved. Song Hee held the 5 talismans in her hand and immediately returned home. The next morning, when Song Hee arrived at class, she saw her friends gossiping about something. It turned out that Bo Min had fainted in the restroom last night. His whole body was still wet and his mouth kept talking nonsense. Song Hee smiled when she saw Woo. However, because of lack of sleep, she was too tired and fainted. Jiho quickly helped Song Hee. He then took her to the medical room as requested. Song Hee slept until the afternoon. That night, Woo's grandmother went to Song Hee's palace to get talisman, but Song Hee refused to give it to her. Song Hee wanted Woo to come here in person to receive talisman. When Woo opened the door and entered, Song Hee saw that his whole body was covered in water. She was shocked to know that he would die from drowning. Then Woo sat down and directly asked the price of 5 talismans. Song Hee really hadn't thought of this. Before she could answer, Woo scolded her because he thought Song Hee was just a fraudulent shaman. Before she could explain further, he pulled his grandmother out of the palace. That night, Song Hee sat looking at her college entrance exam plan. She took it down without hesitation and stuck the Woo rescue plan on it. Woo was destined to drown, and Mr. Wang's charms were still in her possession. Song Hee was determined to do everything she could to rescue Woo. That morning, when Jiho saw Song Hee had many charms, he asked her to give one to Bo Min because he was starting to believe that Bo Bo-min had seen something in the restroom. But Song-hee didn't want to give the charm just because Bo-min wasn't handsome at all. As soon as Song-hee went out to the hallway, she met Jeon-woo coming from the opposite direction. Wanting to avoid him, she pretended to read the school newsletter. When Jeon-woo passed by, Song-hee felt a strange layer of water on the wall. She suddenly remembered what Ji-ho said about Bo-min. Song-hee wanted to find out what was going on, so she went to the men's restroom to check. Not long after Song-hee entered the restroom, water started dripping from her shoulder. The female ghost wanted to scare Song-hee again. However, she didn't know that Song-hee was a shaman. Song-hee immediately put a talisman on the female ghost's head and taught her a lesson. When Song-hee saw that the female ghost had listened, she promised to help the ghost transcend as soon as possible. But when Song-hee was about to leave, the boys entered the restroom, so Song-hee accidentally got stuck there. Their cigarette smoke was unbearable for her. Fortunately, Jeon-woo came in time. However, this was also where his fate began. When the ghost smelled someone who was about to die, she began to awaken her instincts and forgot all of Song-hee's teachings. The ghost crawled quickly and sat on Jeon-woo's shoulder. His eyes turned red and his body started to drip. His throat was choked and he couldn't breathe. Jeon-woo's current state was like that of a real drowning person. Before the boys could leave the restroom, Song-hee ran out and grabbed the faucet. She pressed the talisman on it and started spraying water at the ghost. The ghost was affected by the heat of the talisman and ran around the room in pain. After a while, she completely disappeared, thanks to which Jeon-woo was rescued. He looked at Song-hee and asked her what she wanted to do. However, she couldn't explain. She could only look at Jeon-woo and reluctantly smiled. Because of the vandalism, all the students in the restroom were punished with cleaning duty for a week. Jeon-woo quickly avoided Song-hee. As soon as she saw her, she wanted to explain to him that she was scared and sprayed water because she saw an insect. Jeon-woo thought that even if Song-hee was really afraid of insects, she didn't need to do that. Jeon-woo felt that Song-hee was harmful and not beneficial. He asked her to keep her distance and limit her proximity to him. Although Song-hee was insulted by Jeon-woo, she still felt happy because she saved the life of the person she liked. However, she didn't know that there were still many ghosts who wanted to harm Jeon-woo as substitutes. If he didn't understand and cooperate with Song-hee, he could die at any time. That night, when Song-hee returned home, Sehan continued to scold her for her stupidity. Sehan knew that her daughter had used up all the charms she had asked for, so she went to Miss Hwang to get some more. Even though she often scolded Song-hee, Sehan still loved and pampered her daughter. The next day, Song-hee wanted to approach Jeon-woo to put the talisman in his pocket, but he was now very wary of her. Ji-ho saw that Song-hee kept holding the talisman, so he pretended to fall on Jeon-woo's desk and stole Song-hee's phone. Today, Jeon-woo's grandmother came to bring gifts for everyone, and she accidentally discovered Jeon-woo's phone in Song-hee's hand. Ji-ho quickly said that he had picked it up. Old people usually don't have too many doubts, so Jeon-woo's grandmother believed them and thanked them. Because they suspected that Bo-min and Gae-seo suspected Jeon-woo's identity, the two went online to investigate. Everyone was surprised because Jeon-woo was an excellent archer. However, below a comment, there was information that Jeon-woo had burned down the dormitory. This was really shocking information. Everyone guessed that this was probably the biggest reason why Jeon-woo had to transfer schools. Jeon-woo was inherently quiet, so he didn't want to explain these things. When Jeon-woo discovered that he had lost his phone, he immediately ran to look for it and saw his grandmother with Song-hee and Ji-ho. Coincidentally, the two of them also picked up Jeon-woo's phone. This was a bit strange, making Jeon-woo suspicious. The grandmother knew that her grandson had a friend, so she was very happy. Song-hee quickly told her that she really wanted to be friends with Jeon-woo and that she wanted to go to the grandmother's house to play for a day. Because Jeon-woo's bad luck was so great that even a charm couldn't keep him safe, Song-hee wanted to take the opportunity to go to Jeon-woo's house for dinner so she could hide more charms around the house. The next day, Song-hee found Jeon-woo's house. As soon as she entered the house, she quickly hid a talisman under the storage box. Although Jeon-woo felt that Song-hee was very annoying, he still reluctantly welcomed her. While Song-hee wanted to wander around the house, Jeon-woo warned her to just sit in one place and wait for his grandmother to come back. But Song-hee was like a restless mouse. She tried to open the front door to the own room, but was caught red-handed by Jeon-woo. With no other choice, Song-hee had no choice but to return to her original place. When she received the glass of water that Jeon-woo handed her, she exclaimed that it was as warm as her mother's hand. However, her cheesy words made Jeon-woo unhappy. He demanded to take back the cup of water, causing Song-hee to struggle to get it back. During the struggle, they accidentally spilled water on the table. Song-hee reached over Jeon-woo's shoulder to get the tissue paper, but her action unintentionally shortened the distance between the two. At this time, Jeon-woo's grandmother and Ji-ho had returned from the market. Ji-ho had said that he was a vegetarian to save money for her grandmother, and and today's meal, for the four of them, was all vegetables. But everyone understood and ate happily. Song-hee felt very happy to be able to eat such delicious vermicelli. She also did not hide the fact that she was only Sehun's adopted daughter. Although Sehun's cooking was not good, she loved and pampered Song-hee very much. After everyone heard Song-hee's story, the atmosphere in the house became silent. Gyeonwoo's grandmother was a bit emotional. The corners of her eyes were also red. When she saw Song-hee eating deliciously, she continued to put vermicelli in her bowl. Song-hee's innocence made Gyeonwoo let down his guard. He suddenly remembered her smile. He didn't know if Song-hee was really strong or if she was just pretending to be. Although Jiho was close to Song-hee, he didn't know that she was adopted. To Jiho's surprise, Song-hee was very calm. She had never told anyone about this. But she wasn't embarrassed to mention it because it wasn't Song-hee's weakness, and it wasn't a big deal to her. Jiho sighed sadly. It turned out that he was always by Song-hee's side as friends, but he didn't understand her at all. When Song-hee found herself standing in Gyeonwoo's room, she saw that the opportunity had come. She had found a place to hide the amulet. However, because the place was too high, Song-hee and Jiho broke all the furniture. Gyeonwoo, who was outside the door, heard everything. He hurriedly opened the door and saw that his metal box had fallen over. Gyeonwoo was very unhappy because Jiho and Song-hee had touched her things without permission. Gyeonwoo saw that Song-hee was hiding something secret in her hand, so he tried to reach out and take a look, but Jiho quickly pushed Song-hee back. Thanks to Jiho, Song-hee was able to hide the last talisman in the shelf. Because Song-hee was so absorbed in hiding the talisman, she forgot that she had to go home to work. But when Song-hee just ran out the door, she was called back by Gyeonwoo's grandmother. She had already known that Song-hee was a shaman, but only said it now because she was in such a hurry. She could only make an appointment to see her again next time. At that moment in the equipment room, Teacher Baek was lying down, thinking when he suddenly remembered that Gyeonwoo was a national archer. Teacher Baek didn't understand why Gyeonwoo transferred here. Teacher Baek called a friend and found out that Gyeonwoo had been expelled from his old school. His archery career had been ruined for a long time. The next morning, Sung-hee continued to appear next to Gyeonwoo. However, he didn't care about her. Jiho reminded Sung-hee to keep her distance from Gyeonwoo because Gyeonwoo had no intention of being friends with her. The rumor that he had set fire to the dormitory had spread throughout the school. Sung-hee had heard the rumor while going to the bathroom. During lunch, all the students wanted to avoid Gyeonwoo. Only Sung-hee and Jiho wanted to eat with him. Even though they knew that Gyeonwoo didn't want to be friends with them, they still shamelessly followed him. In fact, the only person who wanted to protect Gyeonwoo was Sung-hee. Jiho didn't trust him much at all. Sung-hee not only saw dead people, but she could also tell who was a good person, and she believed that Gyeonwoo was a warm and kind guy. That night when Gyeonwoo returned, he was surprised to see his grandmother making a lot of mixed noodles. Even though she explained that she was giving them to their new neighbor, Gyeonwoo didn't believe her. When he followed her, he found out that she was giving them to the shaman. Gyeonwoo cursed Sung-hee and didn't let her argue. He turned around and left the temple. Sung-hee was extremely panicked when she saw Gyeonwoo. She was shocked because he cursed her, and she was scared because he was surrounded by fire. The corners of Sung-hee's eyes turned red. She wondered why he was so unlucky. The next morning when Gyeonwoo came to class, he was looked at with hatred by his classmates. Gyeonwoo couldn't stand it. He made an excuse to go sort the trash and left the classroom. Jiho only needed to take a look to understand what was happening. Today Sung-hee was late for school again. She met Jiho and asked about Gyeonwoo. When Sung-hee knew that Gyeonwoo was in the warehouse, she was very panicked. She hurriedly took Gyeonwoo's phone to get the amulet out, but when she looked closely, Sung-hee realized that it was fake. At this time in the warehouse, Gyeonwoo was attacked by a fire ghost. He tried to escape but couldn't. The sad memories of his old friends made him even more depressed. Sung-hee was outside, banging on the door with all her might. Because she didn't have a talisman, she used salt to reduce the fire ghost's power, but that didn't work either. At this time, Jiho used a large smoke nozzle to blow into the warehouse, and his method was really effective. When Gyeonwoo had just escaped danger, he was invited to the principal's office to write a report. The homeroom teacher had heard that Gyeonwoo had burned down the dormitory at his old school, so he assumed that Gyeonwoo had also set fire to the warehouse. Although Sung-hee knew that he had not done so, she still could not make the teacher stop suspecting. Sung-hee was very angry when Gyeonwoo did not argue with the homeroom teacher, but he appeared very calm. Gyeonwoo also thanked Sung-hee for saving his life, but he also advised her not to care too much about him. Gyeonwoo knew that no one cared whether he had set fire or not. What they were thinking was that he had caused it. After saying that, Gyeonwoo turned around and left, while Sung-hee was still standing there thinking. Thanks to Jiho being there to comfort her, Sung-hee felt a little better. Because Sung-hee was in a bad mood, she took a day off from receiving guests that night. But Gyeonwoo's grandmother came, or more specifically, her spirit came came to find Song-hee. She knew that Jeon-woo had always avoided her, so she came to comfort Song-hee. Jeon-woo's grandmother told Song-hee that the reason he became so cold was because every time Jeon-woo trusted and tried to connect with someone, he was hurt by that person. He had been cursed with bad luck since birth. To her, Jeon-woo was a strong but pitiful boy. Jeon-woo's grandmother couldn't hold back her tears when talking about her grandson. From the time she was alive until she became a spirit, she always watched over her grandson. Tonight, Jeon-woo's grandmother came here to find Song-hee because she wanted her to come home to encourage and hold Jeon-woo's hand, because Jeon-woo might feel very sad and lonely when he got home. Even though Jeon-woo had told himself that he would give up archery, he still went to the training ground to watch the athletes practice. As soon as he saw him, Teacher Baek went over to talk to him. He had heard Jeon-woo's story from a teacher at his old school. Big and small accidents had happened in every competition he had participated in. Teacher Jong-sik had also thought that Jeon-woo had been possessed by a ghost that had greatly affected the archery of the other students. Jong-sik's team had started to fall in rank when Jeon-woo had joined. Only Jeon-woo had done very well, but that had not been a great thing, because Jeon-woo could not have competed when he was alone like that. Teacher Baek had thought that the bad kids had framed Jeon-woo for arson. Teacher Jong-sik had immediately corrected him, saying that Jeon-woo had confessed. Although Jeon-woo had not started the fire, he had been the cause of the fire. That had been why Jeon-woo's teammates had complained that he had confessed but had not been punished. Jong-sik himself had had a hard time choosing between Jeon-woo and the other students, so he had let Jeon-woo go. Teacher Baek had sighed after hearing the story. From that moment on, he had decided to take Jeon-woo in. Teacher Baek knew that his grandmother held a very important place in Jeon-woo's heart, so he advised him to continue his archery career for her sake. Jeon-woo hesitated for a long time. It wasn't that Jeon-woo was afraid of being hated by others, but he was afraid that when he went out to compete, those who hated him would show it to his grandmother. That was something Jeon-woo couldn't bear. After saying that, he said goodbye to Teacher Baek and left. Teacher Baek looked at Jeon-woo's back and felt sorry for him. He called Jeon a sweet and lovely lamb. How could someone like that set fire? Jeon-woo had just returned home when he found out that his grandmother had passed away. At this time, he felt very heartbroken and lost. Song-hee also ran to the funeral home. When the shaman arrived, Jeon-woo started to get angry again. He didn't want her to be there because Jeon-woo still thought she was a scammer. But facing his anger, Song-hee was still very strong. She came here because she was worried that Jeon-woo would be heartbroken, but she also wanted to visit his grandmother one last time. This was Song-hee's first time attending a funeral, so she didn't know what to do. She called her mother to ask, but she was busy exercising, so she turned off the power immediately. Tonight, Sehan was invited by the village chief to catch a ghost. When she saw the evil energy surrounding the outside, she knew that the thing inside was not easy to deal with. When Sehan and her elder sister faced it, they realized that it was a demon, not an ordinary ghost. A curse was hidden in the jar, and Sehan's sister, Chae-ong, broke it. The evil energy immediately flew out. Everyone followed the order and ran outside. Sehan had great magic skills, so she stayed to fight, but the demon's power injured her. As soon as Sehan closed the door, she immediately vomited poisonous blood. She used her blood to write a talisman to block the door. Because Sehan couldn't exorcise the demon, she returned the money to the village chief. She also told the village chief not to invite another shaman to exorcise the demon. Whoever agreed to do this job was a scammer. The village chief was both scared and worried when he heard that. What could she do to save the whole village? Chae-ong thought that this was a very strong evil spirit. If it didn't leave on its own, humans wouldn't be able to chase it away. Butler Kim urged everyone to quickly pack up and return. At this moment, Sehan looked down at her feet and discovered a very strange ancient earring. Sehan didn't know when it had been there. At the funeral home, Song-hee couldn't reach her mother, so she texted Ji-ho. Jeon-woo's uncles heard the news of the grandmother's death and came to the funeral. In front of her picture, they didn't hesitate to harshly criticize Jeon-woo. They continuously insulted him and said he was unlucky. The eldest uncle even tried to physically attack Jeon-woo, but Ji-ho arrived in time to stop him. When everything was settled, Jeon-woo received a can of water from Ji-ho and said thank you. This was the first time Ji-ho and Song-hee heard Jeon-woo say thank you, and Song-hee knew that it was his most sincere thank you. On the way back home, Song-hee called Mr. Wang. She knew that he had made a fake amulet for her mother. However, she wouldn't tell her mother about this, and Song-hee asked him for another 100 amulets. Of course, Mr. Huang refused. He also sent Song-hee a link to a talisman making course. However, the course was too expensive, and Song-hee did not have enough money to take it. Actually, Mr. Huang wanted her to give him something in return for his help. Song-hee was Sehan's adopted daughter, so she would find a way to help her daughter. After Mr. Huang finished speaking, he automatically hung up. He did not want to have anything to do with Song-hee anymore. Jeon-woo had returned returned home. By now, his heart ached when he saw his grandfather's shoes. Gyeonwoo recalled the memories with her and shed tears. From today on, Gyeonwoo would be completely alone and he would have no one to rely on. At this time, Sehan had brought the antique earring back home to study. Just now, she was hit by a demon. Although it did not endanger her life, it made Sehan realize that someone had turned themselves into a living sacrifice to strengthen an evil spirit. Using the evil spirit's spell could cost that person their life. At this moment, Songhee's voice rang out outside the door. She started acting spoiled with her mother the moment they met. Shaman Cheong had not seen Songhee for a long time. She was very happy to see Sehan and her daughter still happy. Taking advantage of the fact that Shaman Cheong was here, Songhee wanted her mother and Cheong to help Gyeonwoo because Songhee thought that when she defeated Gyeonwoo's bad luck, he would return to normal and not be hated by everyone anymore. If Songhee did not ask for help from the two best shamans in this area, she did not know who else to ask for help. Basically, Songhee did not have the ability to save Gyeonwoo. Cheong knew that her niece needed advice, so she gave her a book that contained secret knowledge to defeat evil spirits. However, the book was written in Chinese characters, so Songhee had to translate it into Korean herself. This was not easy for someone who hated studying like Songhee, but because it contained secrets to help her fight the strongest ghosts, Songhee patiently translated each word. As soon as school ended, she went to Gyeonwoo's house to see how he was doing. When Gyeonwoo saw Songhee, he wanted to chase her away. Songhee had to lie that she wanted to find something she had forgotten. Then Gyeonwoo reluctantly let her in. Songhee walked around the house, asking Gyeonwoo if he wanted to eat anything. At this moment, she suddenly stopped because of the ghost in front of her, which only appeared when someone had the intention of dying. Songhee knew Gyeonwoo's intention and tried to hold back her tears. She couldn't tell him that she saw a ghost, so she could only mention his grandmother to comfort Gyeonwoo. If his grandmother knew he was like this, she would be very sad. Gyeonwoo immediately sent Songhee away. As soon as she left, Jiho arrived. At Teacher Baek's request, Jiho came to give Gyeonwoo the key to the school's archery room. It seemed that Teacher Baek still hadn't given up. Because Sehan wanted to find out the origin of the earring, she went to Heesok's antiques gallery. Heesok confirmed that this was what Seokwa bought from her, but she didn't have Seokwa's phone number. Currently, Seokwa is a very famous shaman on social media, so if Sehan wanted to contact her, Sehan could only send a message first and wait for Seokwa to reply. Hearing that, Sehan lost patience and didn't want to contact Seokwa anymore. Before leaving, she told Heesok not to sell anything to Seokwa if she didn't want to be punished. As soon as Sehan left, Seokwa came out of the house. It seemed that she knew that Sehan would care about her, so she told Heesok to pretend not to know anything. Not long after returning home, Sehan had to deal with Gyeonwoo's problem. A ghost that had left this world by itself wanted to invade his body. The important thing now was for Songhee to know if Gyeonwoo wanted to live anymore. Just wanting him to live wasn't enough. Songhee thought that Gyeonwoo was in a lot of pain right now, and he didn't even know what he wanted anymore. Sehan advised Songhee to make Gyeonwoo want to live again. Next, Songhee should herself into a talisman to protect him. This way, Songhee would write on her body instead of on a piece of paper. Songhee should make the most of her time with Gyeonwoo. Then, his bad luck would disappear. The important thing was that the two of them must share warmth with each other. They could hold hands to share warmth, or Songhee could let her hand brush against Gyeonwoo's. Early the next morning, Songhee went to Gyeonwoo's house to invite him to go to school. Even though she was following him like a tail, Gyeonwoo still coldly ignored her. Songhee pretended to try touching the back of his neck, and she saw that the ghost that had left this world had indeed taken a step back. So the charm really worked. When Songhee and Gyeonwoo had just entered the classroom, they saw everyone gathered and blaming Gae-seo for spreading false rumors. It turned out that while Bo-min was in the office, he saw Teacher Baek arguing with the homeroom teacher about the rumor that Gyeonwoo set fire. Teacher Baek had corrected that it was not true, and the homeroom teacher had to apologize for not trusting his student. Songhee took this opportunity to immediately run over and hold Gyeonwoo's hand to congratulate him. The ghost that had left the world by itself took another step back. Just like that, Songhee kept deliberately touching Gyeonwoo. She discovered that the ghost that had left the world by itself had also faded quite a bit. Jiho noticed Songhee's abnormality at a glance. He felt a bit unfair to her because Songhee's actions could turn her into an eccentric person. However, Songhee couldn't care that much. She only focused on what she could do right. Now, just after leaving, Gyeonwoo discovered that Songhee had followed him to the columbarium. This time, he didn't chase her away. Songhee looked at Gyeonwoo's grandmother's photo and was moved to tears. Gyeonwoo quietly looked at each of her photos. His childhood memories came back to him. Although Gyeonwoo didn't have parents, he had his grandmother, who was a very strong and safe spiritual support. That evening, Gyeonwoo decided not to go home, but to the equipment room. He loaded an arrow and tried shooting again. His performance was still steady and very stable. Teacher Baek, who was standing above, saw the results of his efforts and felt very happy. The next day, Teacher Baek used the excuse that Jeonwoo hadn't cleaned the archery room yet, so he called Jeonwoo in for a private meeting. When he heard the teacher's sincere advice, Jeonwoo felt that he should reconsider. He wondered if he should return to this archery sport. Jeonwoo had been attached to it for 10 years, and the amount of effort he had put in was not small. Jeon picked up his bow and shot accurately at the target. He didn't miss a single arrow. The ghost that had left this world also took a step back after each shot. Jeonwoo shot. Sung-hee sat on the rock feeling much more secure. The next morning, she came early to put the pink baby charm on the table. At this time, Jeonwoo opened the door and walked in. Seeing Sung-hee arrive so early, he also wanted to talk to her privately. Jeonwoo didn't understand why Sung-hee kept following him like that. Before Sung-hee answered his question, she wanted him to tell her his feelings about the archery. Through Jeonwoo's story, she realized that he was really passionate about archery. When Jeonwoo told her about his achievements, the corners of his mouth unconsciously curled up into a smile. At this moment, Sung-hee felt very sorry for him. She said that children should be protected by adults, but Jeonwoo was alone. That was the reason why Sung-hee had to always stay by his side to protect him. Jeonwoo felt that she was pitying him, but Sung-hee immediately explained that her concern was purely out of friendship. A smile appeared on Jeonwoo's face. At this moment, the ghost that had left this world was standing on the opposite floor. It had begun to fade and disappear into thin air. Sung-hee was extremely happy when she saw this. She raised her hand and wanted Jeonwoo to high-five her. When Sung-hee's joy passed, she realized that she was holding Jeonwoo's hand. Her face froze for a few seconds. However, she did not know that this was also the first time Jeonwoo held hands with someone of the opposite sex. A special feeling was appearing in the hearts of the two of them, and no one knew if it was friendship or love. Because of this hand-holding incident, Sung-hee was extremely happy. The guests who came to the palace all had to give her love advice. Se-han was very annoyed with this daughter. She was about to teach Sung-hee a lesson when Butler Kim stopped her. She did not want Se-han to destroy Sung-hee's happiness like that. After all, this was Sung-hee's first love. Jeonwoo was no less lovesick than Sung-hee. He couldn't concentrate when he remembered holding hands with Sung-hee. That night, Se-han took her daughter to the house where the demon lived. Sung-hee was very curious. She didn't understand why her mother had hung straw ropes and scattered red clay. This was a ritual to welcome a powerful deity. She was overestimating the demon. Se-han explained to her daughter that she was doing this to encourage herself because the demon was very powerful and difficult to deal with. Sung-hee gently praised her mother. Even though the demon was really strong, Se-han still didn't give up. This was still considered the first time she and the demon had fought. Sung-hee also learned this determination from her mother. So she had been protecting Jeonwoo for the past 13 days. Even though fate had said he would die within 21 days, Sung-hee had never thought of giving up. Se-han smiled foolishly as she looked at her daughter. To her, Sung-hee was always a child. At this moment, the sound of breaking the door rang out repeatedly. It caught Sung-hee and her mother's attention. It turned out that two young men who liked to explore haunted houses were causing the sound. Se-han warned them. The man in the blue shirt was scared when he heard that. However, he was still curious and wanted to invite Se-han to come in with him. Sung-hee saw that her mother was being disturbed, so she used her exorcism sword to scare the two young men away. Sung-hee and her mother thought that they had given up, but the two young men stubbornly returned. This time, the man in the blue shirt named Chan-gi opened the door. Many people left comments on the screen. At this time, seeing a ring on the ground, Chan-gi went over to pick it up and put it in his hand. The demon quickly possessed him and transformed Chan-gi into a horrifying figure with red eyes. The door suddenly closed. The friend who went with Chan-gi was immediately dealt with. The haunted house challenge was over. The next day, Sung-hee continued to look up some information in ancient books. If an object with eyes, nose and lips was soaked in the scent of a talisman as a substitute, it could still protect the owner. Sung-hee was frustrated because she couldn't think of anything that could be a substitute. Letting Jeonwoo hold the doll would be too obvious. She conveniently poured everything out of her bag and noticed a lipstick with a doll shape. It was just that now Sung-hee didn't know how to give the lipstick to Jeonwoo in the most natural way. When he mentioned the weather, Sung-hee had a reason to give it to Jeonwoo. Looking at Jeonwoo's lips, Sung-hee couldn't help but blush. The next day, Sung-hee got on the bus to school and thought back to yesterday, making her feel very embarrassed. Jeonwoo saw Sung-hee's strange expression, so he touched her nape. Sung-hee was a bit surprised when she saw that the one teasing her was Jeonwoo. The two smiled at each other, making Jiho unable to believe his eyes. A few days ago, they had still hated each other. At lunchtime, Jiho was even more hurt when he pulled out a chair for Sung-hee to sit next to him, but she still chose to sit next to Jeonwoo. Jiho insisted on dragging Sung-hee to sit with him. She couldn't abandon him. With Kyung-woo, Sung-hee squinted squinted at Jiho. She thought he was really too childish. Song-hee was about to bring the rice over to Jiho's place when Heeji quickly sat down there first. When everyone was preparing to eat, they saw Jin-un and his gang bullying the wheat. It seemed like everyone was used to this, so they didn't show any surprise. Song-hee was no exception, but because she saw the little dog's spirit was so cute, she couldn't help but smile happily. When Song-hee just went out to the yard to rest for a while, Jin-un passed by her again. The dog Boki was still following behind its owner. Jiho and Gyunwoo were very confused when they saw Song-hee looking at Jin-un and smiling. Jiho went to ask Song-hee directly if she liked Jin-un. Only then did she explain that she was smiling at Jin-un's dog. It was very cute and loyal to its owner. The dog must have followed to be Jin-un's guardian angel. Only then did Jiho understand and burst out laughing. What Song-hee felt reassured about was that the dog Boki was very gentle, so it wouldn't hurt Gyunwoo. Jin-un was aggressive but actually not scary. The real dangerous person was Ga-eun. The child ghost that followed her was very difficult to deal with. When someone was near Ga-eun, if the opponent's body was weak, they would feel suffocated or have a headache. Heeji was a concrete example. Right now, in the house where the ghost existed, Sung-hee's mother was preparing herself for the second battle. Sung-hee heard her mother's call and immediately prepared to go there. Before leaving, she did not forget to high-five Jeonwoo goodbye. She did so to increase his strength. Afraid that Jiho would be jealous, she had to do the same again. Sung-hee did not know that she had accidentally made both boys miss her. Night had fallen. Sung-hee dressed as a shaman to help her mother lead the souls of the two unfortunate young men back. Because Sung-hee took too long to finish the ceremony, the next day she brought her tired body to school. The teacher was also too familiar with Sung-hee's falling asleep. During lunch, Gae-seok saw a video of two unfortunate young men breaking into a haunted house. He found it interesting, so he woke Sung-hee up to watch. When Sung-hee was dancing with a sword, Gae-seok felt something was wrong. He covered half of Sung-hee's face with his hand. He was surprised when he realized that she was a shaman. Of course, Sung-hee did not admit the truth, but Gae-seok still did not let her go. He begged Sung-hee to act out the lines of the girl in the video. At this time, Jiho and Jeonwoo walked in. Jiho rescued Sung-hee, but Gae-seok still did not let her go. It was only when Jeonwoo got really angry that everything stopped. Jeonwoo hated the way Sung-hee laughed when people said she was a maniac, or when they assumed she was a shaman. That meant Sung-hee did not love herself. Sung-hee wanted to explain everything, but she didn't have the courage, so Sung-hee could only watch Jeonwoo turn around and leave. Jiho saw that things were too tense, so he decided to talk to Jeonwoo privately. The two of them talked while shooting arrows. The fact that Sung-hee kept smiling at everything that happened was taught by Jiho. He wanted her to be confident in facing everything that happened to her. That was also a very practical life skill. He didn't expect that it would make Jeonwoo so upset. Jiho also didn't hesitate to confess to Jeonwoo that he liked Sung-hee. This was the last time he said it so that Jeonwoo could understand Sung-hee better. But from now on, Jiho would keep everything to himself. Jiho shot the last arrow that hit the target. He wanted to prove that he was serious when he said those things. That night when Sung-hee and her mother were returning home, they were caught by Jeonwoo. He recognized the two shamans in the video, so he wanted to take a photo of her to clear Sung-hee's name. However, Jeonwoo did not know that this shaman was Sung-hee. Fortunately, Sehan was there to protect Sung-hee, so she was not discovered. Jeonwoo realized that his request was unreasonable, so he apologized and left. He thought that it would be better to meet Sung-hee to apologize. Sehan encouraged her daughter to go see Jeonwoo. She even bought Sung-hee a nice outfit. This was also considered her and Jeonwoo's first date. But suddenly the park turned off the electricity. When Sung-hee noticed the ghosts starting to appear, she held Jeonwoo's hand tightly to keep the ghosts away from him. At times like this, it was easier for people to speak their minds. Jeonwoo confessed that he really didn't like her forcing a smile like that because her smile reminded him of his old self. The bad guys would treat Sung-hee worse if she kept smiling like that, and they would continue their bad behavior until she cried. But thinking back, Jeonwoo felt that he was wrong because he had imposed his image on Sung-hee and got angry at her. Sung-hee hugged Jeonwoo and comforted him, her action implicitly confirming that she had forgiven him. Because Sehan wanted to investigate Seokwa's whereabouts, she went to see Mr. Hwang to ask. He said that Seokwa was very famous now, and she could do many things to make money. Miss Hwang also did not hesitate to call Seokwa directly to ask, conveniently mentioning the name of a relative she had not seen for a long time. However, Seokwa was not grateful at all, and she even told Sehan not to meddle in other people's business. That night, Seokwa went to the haunted house to perform her ritual, and suddenly, she heard strange noises outside. When Seokwa opened the door, she saw Sung-hee and two mannequins. Sung-hee thought Seokwa was sent by Cheong, so she talked to Seokwa enthusiastically. At the same time, in the archery equipment room, Jeonwoo informed Teacher Baek that he had decided to return to archery. Teacher Baek was so touched that he wanted to cry. So, Jeonwoo would be joining the team from the next day. That night he was given the entrance ceremony that every new member had to go through. That was Jungwoo had to run to the haunted house. He had to return to the starting point within an hour. If he returned later, he would have to run 50 laps. This would not have been surprising if So-kwa had not taken off Song-hee's veil. When Jungwoo had just stepped up to the haunted house, he met So-kwa and Song-hee. Song-hee turned around and saw Gyunwoo standing there. His body felt like it had drained all its energy. He could not say another word and turned around to leave. Only then did Gyunwoo realize how much Song-hee had deceived him all that time. Song-hee quickly chased after him. When she saw the ghosts continuously gathering in one place, she knew immediately that Gyunwoo was there. When Song-hee saw Gyunwoo injured, she was heartbroken and cried. Song-hee explained that she had originally intended to tell him that she was a shaman, but she had seen that Gyunwoo hated it so much that she stopped. The painful memories came back, making Gyunwoo unable to breathe. So-kwa had used the name of a shaman to imprison and trample on him. Now, whenever Gyunwoo remembered those things, he only felt disgust and fear. Song-hee explained that she was really not like other shamans, but Gyunwoo could no longer believe what she said. He felt that Song-hee's tears were all lies. Right then, at the haunted house, Sehan and the shamans were using spells to seal the house. After returning, Sehan immediately called her daughter, but Song-hee did not want to answer the phone. As soon as she entered the house, she saw her daughter sitting there in a daze. Song-hee told her mother that she had been discovered by Gyunwoo. Song-hee only had 5 days left to pull Gyunwoo out of his bad luck, so she asked Gyunwoo to be her friend for 5 more days, but he didn't want to agree because Gyunwoo felt disgusted just thinking about Song-hee. As Sehan sat in the study, she recalled the conversation between the shamans last night. Once everyone entered that haunted house, even the shaman would become a sacrifice. They would be possessed by the evil god and die. Miss Huang felt that it was very difficult to become an evil god because the person who wanted to become an evil god had to kill 100 living people. At this moment, Miss Huang suddenly realized something. Could it be that the number of dead people was almost enough? Sehan had been thinking all night. Mr. Huang knew that she was worried, so he advised her to ask Song-hee directly if she had met So-kwa. Song-hee honestly recounted everything that happened last night. She and So-kwa even danced the lantern dance together because it was a couple dance. Miss Huang was really shocked when she heard this. Maybe in the future, Song-hee would become a greater shaman than Sehan. When Sehan heard Song-hee recount her conversation with So-kwa, she knew that So-kwa was completely lying, so the Grand Shaman's formation from yesterday became useless since everyone didn't dare to risk their lives. They could only seal the house from the outside, but So-kwa was one step ahead of everyone. She used a curse that turned anyone who entered the house into a sacrifice. Even though Song-hee and Gyunwoo were angry with each other, she still went to wait for him to go to school the next morning. The two of them were so angry that even a careless Heeji noticed. Heeji suggested that they should make up to avoid affecting the group's essay. Song-hee then pulled Jiho and Gyunwoo to the rooftop. She revealed the truth about being a shaman. The person in the video that Gae-suk was talking about was her. Song-hee had undergone a rite of passage since she was 8 years old. Because she wanted to be a normal student, she kept it a secret. Song-hee also wanted to be friends with Gyunwoo, so she had to hide the fact that she was a shaman even more. Gyunwoo looked at Song-hee for a long time. He wanted to know why she wanted to be friends with him. Song-hee didn't know how to answer. In this situation, she didn't confess her feelings because Gyunwoo didn't receive an answer from Song-hee, so he turned around and left. Song-hee was heartbroken and cried. She couldn't tell the truth that Gyunwoo would die in 21 days because Song-hee hadn't saved him. If she said it now, it would be no different from threatening and intimidating Gyunwoo. On this side, Sehan was determined to find So-kwa. Mr. Huang leisurely sat making coffee. He thought that Sehan shouldn't waste her time and energy because So-kwa had prepared very carefully. She sold the house, the shrine, and cancelled all her appointments. Even her phone number couldn't be reached. It wasn't that So-kwa was afraid of something like Sehan thought. She was just afraid of being bothered by others. It was very clear that So-kwa was determined to serve the evil god. If that was the case, Sehan had even more reason to look for her. At this time, Song-hee's group had just returned from school. When Song-hee glanced at Ga-eun's feet, she saw that the baby ghost was still sleeping soundly. Suddenly, Ga-eun was grabbed by the hair by a crazy person. The woman kept calling Ga-eun a thief. Song-hee had to immediately stop her because she was afraid that the baby ghost would start crying. It was normal for a child to cry, but if she couldn't comfort it, a disaster would happen. At this time, the baby ghost had woken up. It climbed onto Ga-eun's shoulder and started crying loudly. Because Song-hee couldn't comfort it, she could only run over and grab Gyunwoo's hand to protect him. But the baby ghost's cry was so loud that the cup in Gyunwoo's hand broke. Everyone was shocked and didn't understand what had happened. Ga-eun coldly asked permission to leave first because she had finished the slideshow. Song-hee felt that something was wrong, so she decided to go to Ga-eun's house to check it out. There, Song-hee discovered that Ga-eun had a room full of dolls, one of which was tied with a red thread, and the thread was connected to the arm of a ghost child. It turned out that it was not the ghost child that followed Ga-eun, but the doll. Song-hee wanted to buy the doll back at a high price, but Ga-eun refused to sell it. When she saw that the ghost child was about to cry again, she had to run away immediately. At night, when Gyeon-woo thought back to Song-hee's strange actions, he felt even more disgusted with her, thinking that she did not pity him or consider him a friend, and that all she did was simply the actions of a shaman. Song-hee was sitting thinking about how to steal the doll. That way she could perform a ceremony to reduce the power of the baby ghost. Mr. Wang explained to Song-hee that any talisman would work. It was just that Song-hee's energy and power were decreasing. To support her, he wrote another talisman for her. The next day, Song-hee continued to approach Ga-eun to ask to buy the doll back, but Ga-eun splashed water on her, making Song-hee completely wet. While the group was studying, Gyeon-woo just stood up to look for books when Song-hee quickly followed. She wanted to hide the talisman on him, but was discovered. Gyeon-woo held her hand and hugged her tightly. He did not hesitate to tell Song-hee that he knew everything about shamans. She must have cast a spell on him, right? Song-hee did not say anything. If Gyeon-woo knew that clearly, then what he encountered in the past must have been very scary. Outside, the baby ghost cried loudly again. The piles of books started to fall towards Gyeon-woo and Song-hee, but Gyeon-woo held Song-hee tightly. Even though the piles of books fell down, he protected her, so she was completely safe. Song-hee sat in the hospital, looking at Gyeon-woo with heartache. It wasn't until Teacher Baek came in to watch over Gyeon-woo that she was able to talk to Jiho privately. Song-hee's power as a human-shaped talisman had disappeared. Even if she touched Gyeon-woo, it wouldn't work anymore. The fallen bookshelf was also a misfortune that he had to bear. The main reason was that Gyeon-woo no longer loved Song-hee. Now she would find another way to help him. She asked Jiho to keep Miss Wang's last talisman. She did this so that Gyeon-woo wouldn't suspect anything. That night, the village chief brought Crazy Girl to Song-hee. Saebom had a miscarriage in her last month. Since then, she had not been sane. She had a doll but lost it. After that, Saebom had gone looking for it but could not find it. Since then, Saebom has been rummaging through the dirty trash, which made the village chief very upset. Song-hee looked at Saebom for a while and realized that Saebom was not possessed by any ghost. No ghost wanted to possess a crazy person. After saying that, she advised the village chief to take Saebom to the hospital to see a doctor. As soon as she finished speaking, Song-hee wondered why Saebom hated Ga-eun so much and why Ga-eun's doll had a string tied to a baby ghost. Song-hee asked Saebom to describe her child, and she described it exactly like the blue doll. Song-hee realized the problem and immediately ran to Ga-eun's house. After Ga-eun listened to Song-hee's explanation and clarified everything, she agreed to return her doll to Song-hee, although she was sorry because the doll was bought by Ga-eun from someone else. Later, her mother threw it away because it looked scary. Saebom accidentally picked it up. One day after coming home from school, Ga-eun saw it in Saebom's crib and took it back. When Song-hee saw the scratches on the baby ghost's hand, she felt heartbroken. She returned home and saw Jiho waiting for her. Jiho decided to become a human talisman for Gyeon-woo. After that, Song-hee started grinding ink and drawing a talisman on Jiho. He also had to find a person with eyes, nose and mouth next to Gyeon-woo. Only then would the spell take effect. After Jiho searched his entire room, he noticed the robot he loved so much. From now on, it would belong to Gyeon-woo. Today, Song-hee ran everywhere to find Saebom. Finally, she discovered Saebom next to Gyeon-woo's trash. At this time, he had just taken out the trash when Gyeon-woo saw a stranger sitting and sobbing. He didn't say anything, but just stood quietly in a corner. He waited for Saebom to finish crying and then told her not to rummage through the trash because it was very dirty. Then, Gyeon-woo quietly entered the house. Song-hee stood from afar and observed everything. She unconsciously smiled because the guy she liked was always so kind. When there was no one left, Song-hee went to Saebom. She distracted Saebom and put the doll in the crib. Then she complimented Saebom's baby on how cute he was. When Saebom found her baby, her spirits also stabilized. Now Song-hee knew why the baby refused to reincarnate. Perhaps it was because it still had feelings for its mother. When Song-hee was about to leave, she discovered that her lipstick had been thrown into the trash bag by Gyeon-woo. Song-hee cried and picked up the lipstick. It seemed like the sky was heartbroken and poured heavy rain. At this moment, an umbrella appeared above Song-hee's head. It was Gyeon-woo, who wanted to run out and pick up the lipstick and bring it back into the house. He didn't think he would see Song-hee sitting there. His face was still calm as he held the umbrella for her, but one of his shoulders was already wet. Gyeon-woo didn't want Song-hee to catch a cold, so he invited Song-hee into his house and made her hot tea. While Song-hee was looking at the souvenir photos, she accidentally discovered something scary. She didn't know who had drawn an exorcism charm on Gyeon-woo's grandmother's face. This was a charm to ward off off evil spirits and was not used on humans. Song-hee explained to Gyeonwoo that if this was done to a living person, it would only bring bad luck, but it was different for a deceased person who hadn't completed the 49th day of worship. It was a powerful curse that would send her to hell. Only then did Gyeonwoo realize that the person Seokwa wanted to harm was his grandmother, not him. Song-hee wanted to know who had done these things. She wanted to ask them to take back the curse, perform a purification ceremony, and then offer prayers for her to be released. That way, his grandmother would go to a good place without having to burn the photo. Gyeonwoo revealed to Song-hee that the person who danced with her that night was the one who had drawn the photo. Song-hee was confused and remembered what her mother and Mr. Wang said. Seokwa was really a scary shaman. Gyeonwoo thought that Song-hee was close to Seokwa, but he didn't understand why she treated him so well. Gyeonwoo begged Song-hee to stop playing with him. He knelt down and begged her to spare him. Song-hee's tears rolled down her cheeks. Before leaving, she said her last words to Gyeonwoo. Even though she knew he might not believe it, the night at the abandoned house was the first time Song-hee had met Shaman Seokwa, and she had no intention of fooling anyone, so Gyeonwoo shouldn't beg her like that. As soon as Song-hee left, Gyeonwoo took the bus to her father's house to ask for Seokwa's phone number. Jiho followed Gyeonwoo and watched from afar. At this moment, Song-hee arrived at the house where the ashes were stored. She discovered something terrifying, a demon-creating talisman. This talisman turned the soul of a deceased person into a demon. Song-hee knew both the person who cast the spell and the person who was cursed, so she asked her mother to perform a purification ceremony. She also told her mother that the person who had made the talisman was Seokwa. Since only Song-hee knew Gyeonwoo's grandmother's face, she had to personally draw the talisman under the guidance of Mr. Wang. Finally, Song-hee completed the talisman. She burned the talisman and recited the incantation. On this side, Gyeonwoo had asked for Seokwa's phone number and successfully made an appointment to meet her. Gyeonwoo directly begged Seokwa to lift a curse on his grandmother. Seokwa was a little surprised to see Gyeonwoo so brave. She took the talisman she had made and stuck it on his forehead. However, the power of the doll talisman stopped her. Seokwa knew that someone was protecting Gyeonwoo, so she immediately suggested going to his house to perform a purification ceremony for his grandmother. Her main purpose was to find the doll which protected him. When Seokwa and Gyeonwoo left in the car, Jiho quickly called Song-hee. Although Song-hee was tired after the purification ceremony for Gyeonwoo's grandmother, she knew something bad was going on when she saw the call from Jiho. When Seokwa and Gyeonwoo just arrived at his house, she kept asking to come in. Gyeonwoo didn't know her bad intentions, so he gave her the key. When Seokwa opened the door and entered Gyeonwoo's room, she saw what she was looking for. However, before she could take the robot away, Song-hee rushed in and took it back. She gave it to Gyeonwoo and told him to keep it safe. Song-hee wanted to talk to Seokwa in private, but she stubbornly wanted to stay in the house. Seokwa even pulled Gyeonwoo's hand towards her and used his grandmother's photos to pressure him. Only when Song-hee showed her strength did Seokwa feel a little worried and agreed to go out to talk. Song-hee knew very well that Seokwa wanted to torture Gyeonwoo and his grandmother, and that she didn't come here today to purify her soul, because any shaman who wanted to purify her would prepare holy water, incense, and candles. But Seokwa only brought fire. Gyeonwoo, who was in the house, heard everything. Now he knew that Seokwa was a cruel person. Although he treasured the photos with his grandmother, Gyeonwoo burned them himself. He didn't want Seokwa's dirty hands to touch his grandmother again. At this point, Seokwa no longer wanted to stay here. Right now, in the main hall, Sehan was performing the remaining steps of the purification ritual. Mr. Wang was shocked when he saw her touching the corpse with her hand. Sehan then used a needle to prick the blood from her fingertip and drip it down to make a charm. Miss Wang feared that the general would punish Sehan, as she dared to use her noble blood for something as lowly as casting a curse. However, Sehan already knew everything. Cursing was digging two graves, one for the other person and one for the one who cursed. If Sehan wanted to open Seokwa's grave, she would have to open her own. Sehan did not hesitate to fold the paper and burn it. A black aura slowly rose, forming the word kill. It then quickly flew off to find Seokwa. While Seokwa and Song-hee were talking, Song-hee detected a murderous aura flying towards her. It directly passed through Seokwa, causing her to collapse. Incantations were heard around Seokwa. Her ears had started to bleed. Song-hee slowly walked over and advised Seokwa to pray to her god. She knew that Seokwa was attached to a demon, not a god, and shamans were not allowed to serve demons, so Seokwa should pray to her god for forgiveness and return. Seokwa screamed in anger. She was so injured that she could no longer walk. Gyeonwoo would only have 2 more days to go through his unlucky period. At that time, he would no longer have to deal with the shaman, and Gyeonwoo would return to being a normal person, living peacefully through the day. Gyeonwoo did not know that he was very lucky to have met a noble person in his life. Seokwa angrily returned to the haunted house. She tore off all the blocking charms charms and soaked the doll in blood. She only needed to pay tribute to one more person, and the scary thing in the house would become a demon, and it would become the main god guiding Silkwa. The next morning, so that Jianwu would not feel uncomfortable every time he saw a ghost, Songhye gave a signal for Jiho to immediately rush over and touch him. After the doll incident, Guyan gradually developed a more favorable impression of Songhye. She always looked for opportunities to ask Songhye to help her find ghosts in photos, or ask her to take pictures of ghosts. Jianwu wanted to make up with Songhye but did not have the chance. During the class volleyball time, Guyan always raised her camera and took pictures of ghosts. Every time like that, Songhye had to clap her hands so that Jiho could touch Jianwu. Until the end of the volleyball match, Guyan gave Songhye the camera to see. At this time, Songhye discovered that there were many faceless ghosts in the basketball court. Songhye immediately returned home to inform her mother about this. Faceless ghosts are usually harmless, but when they gather in groups, they are very dangerous. It is a sign that an owner is about to give them a new face. The faceless ghosts are the first group to celebrate the birth of the evil god, and the one who is about to become the evil god is Silkwa. Before it was dark, Songhye, Sehan, and Miss Huang arrived at the haunted house. At this time, the faceless army had been waiting for them for a long time. They were just ghosts without magic, so they were very easy to defeat. After a while, they were all defeated and disappeared. Now the three of them had to find the wooden man's head. If they don't remove the curse on it, the demons will continue to come. After a while of searching, Mr. Huang found the wooden head. Songhye made 2 cuts in her palm and grabbed the wooden head. Her actions were a bit forceful and decisive, which surprised both her mother and Miss Huang. Sehan had raised Songhye since she was little, so she was very proud to see her daughter grow up and become so talented. Because Jiho wanted to protect Jianwu better, he stayed by Jianwu's side all day. Not only that, Jiho even slept over at his house. Jianwu understood that Jiho's actions were directed by Songhye. He no longer refused it. On the contrary, he felt a little sorry for Songhye. Ever since Jianwu saw footage of Songhye when she was 8 years old, he realized that she had lived an unhappy life. The next morning, Jin-un was beaten by his father, who had just been released from prison, so he didn't dare to go to school anymore. When Jin-un had just called his mother, he was chased by his father and had to run away. When Jin-un saw the haunted house in front of him, he couldn't think of anything else and broke the door and ran inside to hide. Jin-un's father, Bok-hee, had also arrived at the scene at this time. However, he saw many charms, so he didn't dare to go in. Bok-hee looked in and didn't see his son, so he went somewhere else to look. When Jin-un realized that his father had left, he breathed a sigh of relief. As he was about to leave, he discovered a ring under his butt. Jin-un curiously picked it up to look at it and felt as if an electric current had run through his body. After that, Jin-un's body was quickly taken over by a demon. As soon as Jin-un had an accident, the dog Boki immediately ran into the school, barking a few times to alert Songhye. When Songhye saw the broken door of the haunted house, she knew that Jin-un had met with misfortune. After Songhye took out her phone to call Butler Kim, she mustered up the courage to open the door. She screamed and asked the demon to release Jin-un, but it was useless. At this time, Gyeon-woo also ran to the haunted house. He knocked on the door and entered, but when Jeon-woo helped Jin-un stand up, he was immediately possessed by the demon. It seemed that this demon really liked its new form. Although Songhye was screaming, he calmly walked towards her. It was not until Songhye threw salt at the demon that he went crazy. There were 2 ways for the demon to escape from Gyeon-woo's body. The first was to destroy Gyeon-woo's body, and the second was to kill Songhye. Just as the demon was about to approach Songhye, the doll talisman in Gyeon-woo's house suddenly lit up. The demon was unconsciously controlled by the talisman. The demon lost its patience and shouted, threatening to kill Gyeon-woo. Songhye was extremely scared, so she advised him to calm down. The demon remembered Songhye's image the night she danced with Silkwa, so he couldn't bear to do anything to her. The demon wanted to make a bet with Songhye because he knew Silkwa was coming. If Songhye caught the demon before Silkwa, he would grant her a wish or anything she wanted. Songhye accepted the demon's condition. Then she closed her eyes and counted from 1 to 10. Meanwhile, the demon broke the door and ran out of the haunted house. At this time, Sehan and Miss Wang were about to reach the haunted house. When Sehan saw Jeon-woo running and laughing, she realized that the demon had possessed him and ran out. Sehan sent Butler Kim to go with Miss Wang to the haunted house first, while she chased after Gyeon-woo. After Jin-un was purified by Songhye and Miss Wang, he recovered. The one to worry about here was Gyeon-woo. Since it had been a long time since this demon had been outside, he felt unfamiliar with everything. As the demon walked around the street, he came across a group of thugs bullying Bo-min, so the demon rushed in to deal with the thugs. Then he turned to ask Bo-min how to get to school. Bo-min was scared when Gyeon-woo acted strangely. He even took Bo-min's money and didn't return it. This person was not like the usual Gyeon-woo at all. The thugs were not convinced and decided to deal with Gyeon-woo. When Jiho saw Gyeon-woo being bullied, he took out his phone to call Song-hee, but Ji-ho didn't want to bother her, so he dealt with the thugs himself. Ji-ho forgot Song-hee's instructions, which was that he wasn't to get close to Gyeon-woo. Ji-ho also didn't know that Gyeon-woo was currently possessed by a demon, because he thought this was Gyeon-woo. Ji-ho was still very normal. The demon only needed to look at Ji-ho to know that he loved Song-hee. Ji-ho felt embarrassed when he saw that the other person was right. He immediately changed the subject by taking Gyeon-woo out to play. While Ji-ho went to the bathroom, the demon walked around the playground. The fake gunshots gave him such a headache that he collapsed to the ground. The demon was a soldier who died on the battlefield in his previous life, so he was very afraid of gunshots. The demon held his head and trembled uncontrollably. At this moment, Song-hee ran over from somewhere and grabbed his hand. She finally found the demon before Seokwa. Song-hee wanted him to keep his original promise. Song-hee begged the demon to spare Gyeon-woo. She also confessed that Gyeon-woo was her first love. He was the person she liked very much. At this moment, Gyeon-woo suddenly spoke up. He said that he was Baek Gyeon-woo and no one else. Hearing this, Song-hee was startled and panicked. She unconsciously let go of his hand, but Gyeon-woo's body was possessed by the demon again. This strange situation made Song-hee unable to understand. She was forced to bring Gyeon-woo home for Sehan to deal with. Sehan opened the door and saw his daughter and Gyeon-woo holding hands. After Butler Kim finished arranging the gifts, Gyeon-woo was also tied up. Miss Hwang asked Song-hee to take her hand off him. When she took her hand off, the demon returned. His ferocious appearance terrified Mr. Hwang. Song-hee immediately touched him to restrain the demon. No one thought that a living talisman could be so effective. Currently, Gyeon-woo was still possessed, and he was saved only when Sehan removed the demon. Although the three of them used all kinds of methods, the demon was not afraid to leave Gyeon-woo's body. On the contrary, he seemed to enjoy it. While Sehan and Mr. Hwang were discussing other options, the demon untied himself and ran away. Fortunately, Song-hee caught him, and Gyeon-woo's soul immediately returned to his body. Song-hee cried heartbrokenly because today was the last day, and Gyeon-woo still couldn't get rid of his bad luck. Song-hee really tried her best to save him. Everyone was moved to see her cry like that because the demon was too strong and very cunning, so everyone had to tie Gyeon-woo and Song-hee's hands together. Today, on the way to find Gyeon-woo, Sehan met Seokwa. However, she had already fainted after being lightly touched by Sehan's sword. Accumulating bad karma also requires a healthy body. However, Seokwa couldn't even withstand the slightest touch of a sword, yet she dared to commit such evil deeds. It seemed that she had too much hope for the demon hiding in the haunted house. Then Mr. Hwang felt that Sehan was really reckless. He didn't understand why she kept the demon and the shaman serving it in the same house, because that would cause a disaster to happen at any time. That night, Gyeon-woo couldn't sleep. When he saw Song-hee's face close to his heart suddenly beat very hard. However, because the lock was loose, the two of them were separated early the next morning. The demon stole Mr. Hwang's shirt and wore it outside. The first place he wanted to go was Kwamok School. When the demon was standing in front of the school gate, he met Teacher Baek running towards him. The teacher thought this person was Gyeon-woo, so he took him to change clothes. He then took the demon to practice. The demon was quite interested in archery. Although he missed the first shot, the arrows he shot after that were all on target. The demon found it interesting that this body automatically knew what to do. He guessed that Gyeon-woo was a very good archer. Gyeon-woo's attitude today confused Teacher Baek and everyone else. At this time, Song-hee discovered that the demon had run away. She ran to Gyeon-woo's house but couldn't find him. The dog Boki seemed to understand everything. It quickly barked a few times to suggest Song-hee to follow it. Seeing that, she immediately called Boki's name and ran after him. Jin-eun, who was standing nearby, was confused because he clearly heard Song-hee calling his dog's name. Ji-ho had just arrived at school when he saw Gyeon-woo shooting a bow. However, Gyeon-woo's actions made him feel something was wrong. Ji-ho walked closer and called Gyeon-woo's name. The demon seemed to have recognized him. He coldly pointed the arrow at the opponent. Ji-ho was scared and asked if the person standing in front of him was not Gyeon-woo, right? The demon put down the bow, kicked Ji-ho hard, and ran away. At this time, Song-hee had also arrived at school. Because she was wearing pajamas, Teacher Baek suggested that Song-hee should change into an archery athlete's outfit. When Song-hee arrived, the demon was in the warehouse and was preparing to deal with the fire ghost. The demon knew that Song-hee wanted to catch him, so he ran away. The two chased each other for a while but still had no results. Song-hee realized that calling him evil spirit was not good, so she decided to give the demon a name. Since he used to live in the abandoned house in Bongsu Ward, Song-hee would call him Bongsu. This demon didn't seem to be very picky. He thought the name was quite nice, so he agreed. Song-hee saw that the demon had fallen for her trick, so she called Bongsu's name 3 times in a row, causing the spirit to be blocked by a simple summoning spell. If the shaman called the demon's name 3 times and the demon responded 3 times, it would have to submit for a certain period of time. Bongsu Su knew he had been tricked and was very angry. Song-hee did not let him continue to cause trouble. She quickly held Jianwoo's hand to let his soul return. However, the two of them could not return home for the time being because Sehan was performing a ceremony to cleanse Seokwa of the curse. If she did not free Seokwa from the curse, she would lose all her vitality and die. Since Sehan was a true shaman, she would not let that happen. No matter what evil Seokwa had done before, she was now exhausted. Since she could not return home, Song-hee had to take care of herself. If she and Jianwoo continued to hold hands like that, their friends would misunderstand their relationship. So Jianwoo decided to pretend to be sick and Song-hee would stay by his side to support him. However, things did not go as smoothly as she had hoped. Jin-un ran out of nowhere and grabbed Song-hee's hand. Then he kept asking why she knew about the dog Boki. Jianwoo saw Jin-un being so rude, so he wanted to protect Song-hee. The two boys kept arguing, which left Song-hee stuck in the middle, not knowing what to do. At this time, Jiho also ran over and saw Song-hee signaling for help. He thought Jianwoo was possessed, so Jiho rushed straight to separate him from her. Song-hee watched helplessly as what happened. Bong-su's soul immediately possessed Jianwoo. Bong-su punched Jiho hard in the stomach and ran away. After Song-hee explained to Jin-un about the dog Boki, she immediately ran to find Bong-su. When she saw him standing next to teacher Baek and signing up for the archery competition, she was very worried. Song-hee was even more surprised when Bong-su took the initiative to hold her hand to transform into Jianwoo. Then he personally wrote the remaining blank space of the registration form. Then Jianwoo pulled Song-hee up to the rooftop. Jianwoo explained to her that he had made a deal with Bong-su. Bong-su only needed Jianwoo's body, and whatever Jianwoo wanted to do, he would do as Jianwoo pleased. Song-hee just felt that Jianwoo was very dangerous. He reassured her that nothing would happen because Song-hee had done everything possible to keep Jianwoo alive until today. From now on, he wanted to be her protector. Before Jianwoo's confession, Song-hee could only silently nestle into his arms. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but as long as Jianwoo was safe by her side, that was good enough. Jiho was very jealous when he saw Song-hee and Jianwoo constantly holding hands. He wondered why he was also Jianwoo's talisman, but why couldn't he hold his hand like that? Actually, because Jiho's energy was no longer strong enough to resist Bong-su, Jiho's robot was also broken. Now only Song-hee could protect Jianwoo. Since there were only 3 people here, Jianwoo admitted that he had feelings for Song-hee. However, Jiho didn't feel angry because Jianwoo openly expressed his feelings for Song-hee, making Jiho feel that Jianwoo was truly worthy of her. On the way home from school, Song-hee suggested taking off the bandage so that the two of them could be more comfortable. At this moment, Song-hee admitted that she loved him at first sight. Jianwoo also confessed that he had been influenced by her without knowing when. Although Jiho did not hate Jianwoo, he was not really a matchmaker for the two of them. After Jiho thought long enough, he decided to confess his feelings to Song-hee. She felt very guilty for not caring about Jiho's feelings. Jiho realized that her feelings became most obvious since Jianwoo appeared. He became Jianwoo's talisman. Because of Song-hee, it was true that he liked Song-hee, but if Jianwoo died, she would be heartbroken. At this time, Song-hee could only use Bong-su as an excuse. Wait until Bong-su was removed from Jianwoo's body. Then the 3 of them would continue talking about this. At this time, because Song-hee stood up too quickly, she forgot to hold Jianwoo's hand. Bong-su entered Jianwoo and scolded Jiho for being an idiot. Then he automatically grabbed Song-hee's hand to let Jianwoo's soul return to his body. Jiho heard Bong-su scolding him and got angry and stood up to hit Jianwoo, but Jianwoo thought he did nothing wrong, so he couldn't hold back. So the two had another conflict. Song-hee kept going back and forth between the two boys. Just as things calmed down a bit, Jiho discovered that his robot was broken. This made him feel like his heart was being torn apart. That night when Jianwoo and Song-hee returned home, she still had to tie Jianwoo's hands and let him sleep next to her. She didn't know that this actually had no effect, and Seokwa had been successfully cured of the curse by Sehan. To give Seokwa time to recover and repent, Sehan left her in the prayer room. As he had calculated, Seokwa acted at the exact hour of the ox. It was known that this was the hour when demons were most active. Jianwoo's soul was now possessed by Bong-su. He automatically untied his hands and prepared to go out to meet Seokwa. When Bong-su saw Song-hee sleeping soundly, he stopped for a moment to admire her beautiful face. When Bong-su heard Seokwa's voice outside the door, he suddenly stood up. Normally, when Bong-su possessed someone, that person would lose their memory, but Jianwoo was an exception. His body was quite special, perhaps because Jianwoo was so unfortunate that he did not lose his memory. Seokwa asked Bong-su to prepare to become her guardian angel. The longer Bong-su stayed in the human body, the more real the pain of death became when he left the body. Seokwa also gave Bong-su a talisman. It has the effect of soothing the pain of death. Bong-su took the talisman and threw it away without mercy. Now Bong-su still wanted to stay in Jianwoo's body, so she couldn't do anything until he he wanted to leave. Although Seokwa threatened that Bong-soo would die if he didn't let her perform the welcoming ceremony, he was still not afraid. Before leaving the house, Bong-soo still laughed, making Seokwa furious. Sehun, Butler Kim and Mr. Wang heard the whole conversation. Everyone realized that Seokwa had been fooled by her own stupidity. At this time, Grand Shaman Cheong also arrived because she had a bad dream, so she personally went to Sehun's house to check. Everyone was talking loudly, causing Song-hee to wake up. She and Jeon-woo opened the door and entered the main hall. Grand Shaman Cheong's intuition told her that Song-hee was holding a ghost's hand. No matter how Song-hee explained, Cheong would not accept it and wanted to chase Jeon-woo out of the house because she kept talking, but her granddaughter would not let go. Cheong pulled her hand away and tried to hit Jeon-woo with a stick. As soon as Song-hee let go, Bong-soo immediately entered Jeon-woo. He was very strong, so he controlled Cheong with just one move. She kept chanting spells, giving Bong-soo a headache. He was angry and wanted to hit Cheong to death with a stick, but Song-hee begged him to stop. She slowly approached Bong-soo, who turned all his attention to her and let go of Cheong, immediately falling to the ground. Song-hee also quickly hugged Bong-soo so he could return to Jeon-woo. Jeon-woo could only apologize and leave with her. Seokwa hurriedly ran after her but was stopped by Mr. Wang. He knew that if Bong-soo could defeat Grand Mage Cheong, Seokwa was no match for him. Jeon-woo pulled Song-hee into the room and told her to take his phone. When he signaled, she should let go. Then Song-hee went out and called Jeon-woo. She should wait outside until Bong-soo promised not to hurt anyone. Jeon-woo should never open the door until then. He couldn't explain further for fear that Bong-soo would understand. Jeon-woo started counting from 1 to 3. Song-hee immediately ran out and made a phone call. The ringtone Jeon-woo had set was the sound of gunfire. Bong-soo couldn't stand it anymore, so she immediately begged Song-hee to stop. In front of everyone, Bong-soo promised not to harm anyone anymore. It turned out that Jeon-woo had found a way to restrain Bong-soo. Grand Shaman Cheong had also activated the yin listening for him. From then on, Jeon-woo could hear ghosts. However, that was not too bad. He could still live like a normal person. Cheong also told Jeon-woo that ghosts would take over people in order of each body part, starting from the ears, then the eyes, mouth, and finally the nose. Hearing meant hearing ghosts. Seeing meant seeing ghosts. Opening the mouth meant you could talk to them. And finally, smelling meant smelling the ghosts. Once Jeon-woo smelled the ghosts, he could not return to being a normal person. Jeon-woo could become a ghost and vice versa. Ghosts could turn into him. However, Cheong did not want Jeon-woo to be afraid of anything. If Jeon-woo felt any changes in himself, he just had to report it to everyone immediately. Song-hee heard Cheong calling Jeon-woo ghost, so she gently reminded Cheong to change the way he addressed him. She understood that her niece wanted to defend Jeon-woo, so she did not hesitate to apologize to him. Song-hee turned her head and glanced at Seokwa. She wanted to ask what Seokwa was doing there. At that time, Miss Wang explained everything. Seokwa was Song-hee's older sister. In other words, Seokwa was also Sehun's adopted daughter, but because she and Sehun had severed their relationship, she was then just Song-hee's ex-sister. Since Bong-soo needed to find his grave at school, Song-hee and Jeon-woo agreed, letting him possess Jeon-woo's body during the break. However, when Jeon-woo studied or practiced archery, Bong-soo had to be obedient. There were only 7 days left until Jeon-woo's competition day, so Bong-soo had to find his memorial stone. While Bong-soo was searching for books in the library, he realized that the government had moved his grave to Zuo Park. That night, Seokwa advised Bong-soo to reconsider. If Bong-soo continued to stay in Jeon-woo's body, his soul would disappear sooner or later. Bong-soo laughed loudly when she heard that. Without Bong-soo as guardian spirit, Seokwa could not be a shaman because her guardian spirit had left, so Bong-soo advised Seokwa not to threaten him but to treat him better. Seokwa was furious but still had not found a way to deal with Bong-soo. She returned to her room and started to plan. At that time, Song-hee felt very worried because the competition day was coming and Jeon-woo and Bong-soo still could not be separated. Bong-soo looked at Song-hee for a long time. She had really been a foolish shaman. Hadn't the book that Grand Shaman Cheong had given her already contained all the solutions? It was just that Song-hee could not read Chinese characters. The page she opened mentioned the suppression charm. From the time the rooster crowed at dawn until the sun rose the next morning. In other words, in one day, humans and ghosts could share their fates by becoming each other's talismans. Song-hee was afraid that if Bong-soo did this every day, he would never be able to transcend. Bong-soo explained to her that he could only do it once in his life. Song-hee meticulously drew each stroke on Jeon-woo's body. As soon as she finished, Song-hee let go. Miraculously, Jeon-woo was still here, so Bong-soo wouldn't appear until this time tomorrow. To be sure, she even got a protective doll for Jeon-woo to hold. But Song-hee accidentally stepped on her skirt and fell into Jeon-woo's arms, almost kissing them. Seokwa decided to create a talisman that united her and the devil. She was now willing to use any means to achieve her goal. When Seokwa cast the spell, Gyunwoo had an accident. His eyes suddenly blurred, and he could no longer see the target clearly. At this time, Song-hee ran over to cheer for Gyunwoo. After the two of them clapped hands, Gyunwoo saw many ghosts appearing around him. Song-hee in front of him had become a beautiful shaman. Gyunwoo knew that his yin and yang eyes had been opened. He knew that when his ears, eyes, mouth, and nose were taken over by demons, things would no longer be simple. When Gyunwoo heard something, he would easily believe it, especially the words of demons. When he saw them, he would feel lonely, because when he told people that he saw a ghost, no one believed him. There were people who were so lonely that they accepted to be friends with demons, but demons were friends with humans for only one reason. That is, they wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to take over the human body. Because Seokwa kept chanting the spell, Gyunwoo at the shooting range was also affected. It was almost Gyunwoo's turn to compete, but he saw ghosts everywhere. In the stands, Song-hee was cheering for him enthusiastically. She had no idea that Gyunwoo was in danger. When Gyunwoo remembered his promise to protect Song-hee, he resolutely picked up his bow and charged forward. Gyunwoo did very well in his first 2 shots, hitting the target and winning 20 points, but his third shot missed, only giving him 8 points. Song-hee felt something was wrong from the stands. She had heard Seokwa's curse. She was transferring the evil spirit so that Bongsu could kill Gyunwoo more easily. However, Seokwa did not know that today, Song-hee and Gyunwoo had used the mutual killing technique to protect each other. If Seokwa wanted to harm Gyunwoo, she had to kill Song-hee first. Song-hee then sat down and began to chant the spell. Seokwa smirked because she knew that Song-hee was also fighting against her spell. This battle left both of them seriously injured, but Gyunwoo was protected by Song-hee. He safely completed the last arrow with a perfect score of 10. The gold medal belonged to Gyunwoo, but now his grandmother was no longer there to celebrate with him. Fortunately, Gyunwoo still had his teammates by his side. They were friends who truly recognized his talent. When Song-hee finished taking pictures with everyone, she immediately asked permission to go home first because she had urgent matters to attend to. Although she told Gyunwoo that she was fine, he could see that her shaman's skirt had turned black. When Song-hee just entered the house, she met Mr. Huang. He found out that Song-hee had been cursed, so he started questioning her and worried about her. Sehan also knew that Seokwa had used curse on someone, but she had not thought that person was Song-hee. Seokwa started to mock her former mother. Now she hated both Sehan and Song-hee. There was no reason why she could not hurt Song-hee because Seokwa hated everything related to Sehan. At that time, Song-hee also went to the palace to talk clearly with Seokwa. She saw a very large wooden barrel on Seokwa's back, but when Song-hee rubbed her eyes and looked again, it was gone. Seokwa told Song-hee very harsh words about how Sehan had brought Song-hee home after Sehan had chased Seokwa away. She felt that she and Song-hee had been inherently very similar. They had both been lonely and cursed in the same way. Because of these words from Seokwa, Song-hee felt very sad. Through Butler Kim, she discovered that Seokwa had used to be a kind and weak girl, but because she had been taken advantage of by a bad guy, her soul had been hurt. That was why Sehan had always been tolerant of Seokwa, and until then, Sehan still had not been heartless towards her. Seokwa would realize her mistake and become a good girl again. The next day, Gyunwoo did not go out to eat with everyone, but went to visit his grandmother. When Gyunwoo had just placed the gold medal he had received on his grandmother's tablet, he heard Cheong's footsteps. She had come all the way there to see Gyunwoo, so he told her about seeing Song-hee's skirt turn black. She said that Song-hee's spirit was negatively affected by a curse, so she would have to suffer the punishment of the gods. Gyunwoo really wanted to take on this punishment for her, but since he was not a shaman, he could not do anything. However, Gyunwoo still begged Cheong to do something. He wanted her to remove the mutual killing spell so that Song-hee would not be hurt anymore because of him. Cheong felt very happy to see Gyunwoo worried about her niece, but even though Cheong used Song's amulet, it still did not work. She could not remove the mutual killing spell because the power of the amulet that bound the two of them was too strong. Song-hee's will to protect was much greater than Cheong had imagined. She proposed offering this talisman to the 7-star deities, and she would pray for Gyunwoo. Before Cheong left, she carefully told Gyunwoo to stay away from evil spirits. If Gyunwoo had to get involved with them, he absolutely could not let himself bleed because if he was stained with blood, he would no longer be human. At that time, Gyunwoo would live a more miserable life than death. On the way back home, Gyunwoo unconsciously saw ghosts. However, Gyunwoo listened to the shaman Cheong's words and avoided them. When Gyunwoo was resting, he saw Bomin walking slowly, his eyes fixed on the phone screen. However, following Bomin was a ghost that had left this world by itself. Gyunwoo was a bit worried. He intended to follow but remembered what Cheong told him and stopped. When he raised his head, Bomin was nowhere to be seen. Gyunwoo returned home and met Mr. Huang. He told Gyunwoo that Song-hee would be in a lot of pain in the future. That was something that every shaman had to go through. Bong-soo. No doctor or medicine could cure it. He hoped that Jianwoo could be by her side and make Song-hee less hurt. When Jianwoo opened the door and entered the room, he saw her sitting silently. It seemed that Song-hee was very upset. Jianwoo wanted to joke a little to make her feel more comfortable, but his method did not work. That night, when Song-hee was getting ready for bed, she told Jianwoo that she wanted him to return to normal and get rid of the shamans as soon as possible. However, Song-hee did not know that Jianwoo had also seen ghosts. He did not want to say it because he was afraid that she would be sad. The next morning, Se-han saw Jianwoo and Song-hee hugging each other. She started to get angry and hit the soles of his feet. Because of that, he could not walk normally like before. In the first period of the morning, Bo-min did not come to class. In the second period, Gae-seok was very excited when he saw Bo-min go to school, but Bo-min was still silent. Song-hee did not intend to be curious about Bo-min's private life, but she saw the ghost who had left this world standing next to him. Song-hee was worried and wanted to throw some salt at Bo-min, but Jianwoo did not let go of her hand. He used the excuse that he had to protect her. At this time, Song-hee's body was also red with heat. She knew that her punishment had come. Seo-kwa locked herself in her room. She kept thinking about Song-hee's words. She said she saw a wooden box tied with white cloth behind Seo-kwa. After Seo-kwa thought for a long time, she realized that it was a coffin. Seo-kwa went crazy and ran to the main hall and asked Se-han why. Se-han knew her child was in the coffin but didn't say anything. Se-han just stood there and looked at Seo-kwa. She burned incense and asked the god to save Song-hee and Seo-kwa, but the god only allowed her to choose to save one of them. As a mother, Se-han didn't know what to do. At school, Song-hee's situation was really bad. She couldn't stand anymore and had to lean on Jianwoo. When the whole class was in cooking class, Bo-min suddenly received a text message. It was a threat from the thugs. Bo-min waited for everyone to leave and stole a knife. His strange actions were noticed by Song-hee. She quietly followed Bo-min into the restroom, but Jianwoo pulled her hand back. He wanted the two of them to go to the office to report this to the teacher, but Song-hee really wanted to handle it herself. She had no idea that Jianwoo was in a very sensitive phase with ghosts. Song-hee stood outside and advised Bo-min, but to no avail. He was thinking that he was the cause of everything. Hearing that, Jianwoo immediately pushed the door open and rushed in. While the two were arguing back and forth, the knife accidentally cut Jianwoo's hand. He collapsed and fainted on the spot. Cheong's every word rang in his ears. When Jianwoo came into contact with blood at that time, he could no longer live like a normal person. Song-hee quickly took Jianwoo to the medical room. When he woke up, he saw her sitting next to him. Song-hee's body was getting hotter and hotter. He had to bring Song-hee home and cook porridge for her to eat before she could recover a little. Song-hee remembered that Jianwoo had not practiced for a few days, so she urged him to go to the practice room. While Jianwoo was shooting arrows, although he hit the target many times, Song-hee did not feel happy. She realized something was wrong. When the two entered the equipment room, Song-hee unconsciously called Bong-soo's name, startling him. She knew that the person next to her was Bong-soo, not Jianwoo. Because Jianwoo would move his hand out of habit when shooting arrows, Bong-soo knew that he could no longer lie to Song-hee, so he told the truth that he had swallowed Jianwoo. Song-hee felt breathless when she heard this. On the other side, Seo-kwa sat in the dark room. She held the handkerchief that Se-han had used to bandage her wound. She already had a plan in mind. When Mr. Huang got drunk and passed out, Seo-kwa stole the remaining talismans from him and left the house. Even Bong-soo did not know what she was trying to do. Although Se-han knew Seo-kwa would do it, she still let Seo-kwa go. You had to know where the ghosts were so you could set a trap there. The first place Seo-kwa went to was the shaman's talisman shop. Seo-kwa bought an exorcism hammer from Shaman Park at Goma Mountain for 200 million won. Shaman Park saw the handkerchief and exclaimed a few words. She clearly remembered that 10 years ago, Seo-kwa had bought it for her adoptive mother. The mother and son had looked very happy and cheerful. Because Se-han wanted to know Seo-kwa's purpose and method of using the evil god, she had talked directly to Bong-soo. Although Bong-soo had known that taking over Jianwoo's body was wrong, he had not wanted to return the body at all. Bong-soo had explained Seo-kwa's plot. She had wanted to wait for Bong-soo to kill Jianwoo, then Seo-kwa would turn him into an evil god. To do that, Bong-soo had to take over Jianwoo's entire body. But at that time, Bong-soo did not want to become an evil god anymore. He just wanted to be a normal human. Bong-soo had also revealed to Se-han that he had actually been imprisoned in a ring, not in that abandoned house. However, when Seo-kwa had asked about the ring, Bong-soo had said he did not know. It seemed that Seo-kwa was currently looking for the ring. Her purpose was to break it to summon the god of death. At that time, Jianwoo had not completely disappeared, and he and Bong-soo were still living together in the same body. So Song-hee still had to protect Bong-soo. If Bong-soo was taken over by the Grim Reaper, Jianwoo would die as well. Protecting Bong-soo meant protecting Jianwoo. Se-han understood the evil spirit Bong-soo very well. He said that he had wanted to be human, so he had taken over Jianwu's body. That way he could be by Sung Hee's side. In other words, Bongsu had felt a special connection with Sung Hee. Si-han advised her daughter to feel Bongsu's heart. She should not hate him for possessing Jianwu's body. The shaman's job was to comfort the souls. Rituals and spells were just means to convey the heart. If Sung Hee did a good job of taking care of those wounded souls, everything would go smoothly according to the rules. Sung Hee was afraid that doing so would take a long time, but Si-han encouraged her that no matter what, she still had to go in the right direction. Sung Hee promised to treat Bongsu well because she knew that all ghosts were lonely. Meanwhile, Gyeonwoo got lost in a forest and could not find the way out. Gyeonwoo did not know that Bongsu had taken over his body, and although his soul was not completely gone, it was still wandering around. Then the next morning, Bongsu continuously expressed his feelings for Sung Hee, which surprised everyone in the class. Jiho also felt that this person was not like Gyeonwoo at all, so Sung Hee explained to Jiho that Gyeonwoo was no longer there. Comforting Bongsu had become the most urgent thing. She started praying for 100 days from that day. However, Sung Hee could not guarantee that Gyeonwoo would return. She might have had to pray for another 200 to 300 days. Jiho was angry and wanted to physically impact Bongsu, but Bongsu's words changed his mind. Bongsu liked Sung Hee very much. He hated the feeling of not being able to do anything for her. Sung Hee fell, but he could not help her up. Bongsu could not wipe away her tears when she cried. That night, Bongsu was depressed and went for a walk alone. He had just passed Jinun when he was called back by him. Jinun wanted to ask Jianwoo to convey his thanks to Mr. Huang, but he did not expect Jianwoo to be so difficult that day. Not only did Bongsu not pass the message, but he also scolded Jinun. Bongsu told Jinun to say it himself. Didn't Jinun have a mouth? Bongsu was truly a formidable demon. They thought the two would fight, but Gay Seok's screams caught their attention. When Bongsu and Jin-un saw their classmate being bullied by thugs, they immediately went to check it out. Although Bongsu was more than capable of defeating these thugs, the group stopped him in time because Jin-un could not fight anymore. He had been called to his parents' meetings too many times, so he couldn't bother his mother anymore. Bo-min felt much stronger when he saw everyone caring about him like this. The thugs didn't dare to bully Bo-min anymore when they saw this. The ghost that had left this world no longer followed Bo-min and automatically disappeared like smoke. Bongsu had just returned home when he was scolded by Sung Hee for daring to use Gyeonwoo's body to fight. Bongsu promised that from then on, he wouldn't do that again. The next morning, Bongsu woke up very early to practice archery. Bongsu was completely different from Gyeonwoo. He was very humorous, friendly, and close to everyone. He rarely refuses basic requests from his friends, so Bongsu was loved by everyone. Sung Hee looked at Bongsu like this and started thinking about Jianwoo. She felt that the two people had two completely different personalities. That night, Sung Hee was extremely worried. She was afraid that if Bongsu continued like this, Jianwoo would disappear completely. Mr. Huang couldn't bear to see Sung Hee in pain, so he suggested that she wait until the hour of the ox and then call Jianwoo to meet him. Only then did she remember that ghosts were most active during the hour of the ox. Now Jianwoo was considered a ghost. Sung Hee tried to wake Jianwoo up, but he was still in the forest. Jianwoo saw two boys in soldier uniforms, but he didn't know which one of them was Bongsu. Sung Hee had to call Jianwoo a few more times before Jianwoo's soul returned to his body. Sung Hee was very happy to see Jianwoo again. She thought she would never see him again. When Jianwoo told Sung Hee about his experiences, she asked him to be friends with those soldiers and for Jianwoo to listen to their stories. He had to find out why Bongsu couldn't reincarnate and became a demon, so that Jianwoo could comfort Bongsu's soul. The hour of the ox quickly passed. Jianwoo hugged Sung Hee one last time and then returned to his dream forest. Seokwa had now located the ring where Bongsu was. However, she didn't know how to steal it because Bongsu had the same archery skills as Jianwoo, so he was sure to get a ticket to the national team competition. Everyone was happy and congratulated him. When Bongsu saw Sung Hee walking out, he stopped her and asked for a wish. If Bongsu could get into the national team, Sung Hee had to give him her first kiss. This was completely unreasonable. The more Sung Hee resisted, the louder Bongsu shouted, making her very embarrassed. The people around cheered enthusiastically, making Bongsu even more confident. Jiho couldn't understand what the hell Bongsu was doing. He wanted to scold Bongsu, but then sighed when he knew that Bongsu just wanted Sung Hee to care about him. However, that was very difficult. That night, while Bongsu was practicing, he received a call from Seokwa. Jiho followed him out of habit. He found the girl sitting and talking to Bongsu very familiar. Then he also realized that she was the shaman he had met once at Jianwoo's father's house. Seokwa hinted that the ring was with Bongsu, but he didn't care and even changed the subject. It was only when Seokwa mentioned that Jianwoo would return at the hour of the ox that Bongsu became a little concerned. However, he still acted arrogant in front of Seokwa and didn't even want to talk to her anymore. As soon as Bong Su left, Seokwa immediately called Mr. Hwang. She asked him to draw her a talisman to create a demon. When Seokwa saw that Bong Su's spirit was not well, she was about to run to him, but Ji-ho quickly came to support Bong Su. Ji-ho did not give Seokwa a chance to do anything bad. That night, when he returned home, Bong Su held the talisman that Seokwa gave him. He looked at it and remembered her words. She said what the heart of the celestial fairy meant. Bong Su was also very curious to know. At the hour of the ox, Song-hee entered Bong Su's room with a candle. She gently woke Jeon-woo up. Bong Su held the red talisman tightly in her hand. This was the talisman that prevented Jeon-woo from returning. When Song-hee saw the other person move, she thought Jeon-woo had returned, so she happily hugged him from behind. Song-hee wanted to know how things were between Jeon-woo and the two soldiers, if they were close yet. If they were close, she would find a way to save Bong Su, and Jeon-woo would also return to his body. Bong Su looked at the girl in front of her with heartache. It turned out that Song-hee just wanted to send him off in the best possible way. He called Song-hee a shaman, which surprised her, but all this time, she thought he was Jeon-woo. The next morning, Song-hee and Bong Su did not say a word to each other. When class ended, Bong Su pulled Song-hee to the rocky area behind the school. There was a memorial stone that he had been looking for a long time. Bong Su began to explain to Song-hee about the two soldiers in Jeon-woo's dream. The older one was Bong Su. The younger one was named John Bo. When John Bo had been shot and about to die, he had asked Bong Su to bring the silver ring back home and give it to his mother as a keepsake. However, Bong Su had also died on the battlefield, so he could not keep his promise to John Bo. Later, because Bong Su had suffered from obsessive-compulsive disorder, he had turned into a ghost. Bong Su took out the ring from his body and buried it under the rock, as if he was sending it back to John Bo. This action could also relieve the helplessness in him. Then Bong Su stood up and pulled Song-hee's hand hard to leave, but Ji-ho quickly separated two. Bong Su knew Song-hee was in pain, but he was the same as her, except that his pain was in his heart. At the same time, Seokwa had made an appointment to meet Mr. Hwang privately to get a talisman. However, he did not draw a talisman for her, but only wanted to trick her into coming here. As soon as Mr. Hwang closed the door, Sehan and Cheong entered. The two immediately tied Seokwa to a chair. Sehan could not let her summon the Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper coming without a book of life and death was no different from a murderer. Sehan slowly walked towards Seokwa and stuck a talisman on her forehead. From now on, Seokwa should end her career as a shaman because she had been deprived of her god and was sitting alone on the side of the road. At this time, Seokwa saw Sebom waving at her. She had the idea to steal the doll and bring it to the haunted house. Seokwa did not think that she would meet Ji-ho here because he was worried about Jeon-woo. Ji-ho gathered all his courage to come here to see Seokwa. Ji-ho wanted to ask her if there was any way to bring Jeon-woo back. Seokwa said that there was only one way to save Jeon-woo, and that was to use the silver ring that Bong Su carried with him. If she had it, she would be able to subdue Bong Su. Ji-ho of course believed Seokwa's words. He immediately ran back and dug up the silver ring, then brought it to the haunted house and gave it to Seokwa. When Ji-ho realized he had been tricked, he regretted it and quickly called Song-hee. Every time Seokwa hammered down, Bong Su felt so much pain that he almost fainted. At this time, she was preparing to summon the Grim Reaper. Sehan had no choice but to set up a barrier to hide Bong Su's exact location. Song-hee and Mr. Hwang were tasked with going to the place where the silver ring was buried to perform a ceremony. That way, they could lure the Grim Reaper in the wrong direction. At this moment, the Grim Reaper appeared and stood by the door, but Butler Kim had blindfolded Bong Su. Sehan and Butler Kim saw that the Grim Reaper had left, so they hurriedly went out and locked the door. Bong Su was both in pain and tired. He just wanted to live like a human. Why did he have to suffer like this? Having said that, he tore off all the ropes. Bong Su remembered a spell book he had read in his room. There was a page that said, "The way to destroy demons can also destroy people." Bong Su took out the book and started chanting the spell. The spell immediately took effect and hit Seokwa. She fell down. Her ears also started bleeding. Seokwa looked around the abandoned house and screamed, not knowing who had cast the spell on her. She refused to die here, so she continued to practice hammering. However, Seokwa was not taken away by the Grim Reaper because she had the amulet that Sehan had given her. Seokwa seemed to understand everything. She hurriedly ran home and saw Sehan lying neatly in one place. She really saw this ending but still accepted and would tolerate Seokwa. In the end, she did not let go of her adopted daughter. Song-hee hugged her adoptive mother, her tears rolling down, but she had to helplessly watch her mother leave before her eyes. Bong Su was in the room and heard Song-hee's crying. Then he was startled and stopped chanting the spell. This was not what he wanted. Seokwa should have died, not Sehan. He silently apologized to Song-hee, even though he did not want to. This was the only way for him to survive. Sehan frantically knocked on the door, but when he got there, Bong Su had already jumped out the window and escaped. She lost her temper and wanted to go find Bong Su immediately. However, Song-hee held her back. back. She wanted to tell Seokwa that Seokwa was the one who made her adoptive mother like this. But because her mother tried her best to protect Seokwa, no matter how much Seong-hee hated Suo, Seong-hee would protect her to the end. In order for Seokwa and Jeonwoo to be safe, Seong-hee agreed to replace Jeonwoo, which meant she had to stop going to school. Seong-hee's graduation day soon arrived. While her friends were happily taking pictures together, only Jiho and Jeonwoo couldn't stop thinking about Seong-hee. Her dream was to attend her graduation. Seong-hee wanted to take a picture with a beautiful bouquet of flowers, but she probably wouldn't be able to do that. Jeonwoo was determined to find Seong-hee. He went to her house and saw that the main shrine was empty. Sehan had died, so her deity had also left, and now there was no one to worship the gods anymore. At this time, Seokwa entered. She said that Seong-hee had completely left her position as a shaman, but she was not dead yet. Both Seokwa and Jeonwoo had been connected to Seong-hee through the unification spell, so if Seong-hee died, Seokwa and Jeonwoo would sense it. At that time, Seong-hee would appear in white to say her final goodbye. Something was wrong. Although Seong-hee's deity had disappeared, she was still safe and sound. Seokwa knew that Bong-soo was up to something, so everyone had to quickly find Seong-hee before she harmed innocent people. Jeonwoo was angry when he heard Seokwa bad-mouthing the person he loved. To him, Seong-hee was not as evil as Seokwa. Jeonwoo searched through his box for a bow and brought it to Mr. Hwang. Jeonwoo wanted to ask him to draw him some talismans, which he would carry with him on his way to find Seong-hee. Although giving out talismans indiscriminately was not allowed, Mr. Hwang reluctantly accepted. As long as Jeonwoo tied the talisman to the tip of the arrow and hit the ghost, he could subdue it. As soon as Jeonwoo left, Mr. Hwang immediately called Seokwa. She guessed Jeonwoo's intentions. Seokwa knew that he would come to Mr. Hwang to ask for a talisman, so she told him to let Jeonwoo achieve his wish. Miss Hwang understood that if Jeonwoo persisted in looking for Seong-hee like this, he could be in danger. Seokwa agreed to Jeonwoo's risk, but there was one thing he didn't know, that when Jeonwoo found Seong-hee, Seokwa would have to kill Seong-hee to exorcise the evil spirit, and Seong-hee would definitely die. That could not be changed. Because Jeonwoo wanted to determine Seong-hee's direction, he went to the spirit of the barbecue restaurant owner to ask, but he also didn't know where Seong-hee was, so he suggested that Jeonwoo go to the faceless ghost. However, if things were that easy, Seokwa wouldn't have had to struggle to find Seong-hee for a year. 2 months passed, but Jeonwoo still couldn't find Seong-hee. One night, while he was drinking with Teacher Baek, the faceless ghost came to find Jeonwoo. It told Jeonwoo where Seong-hee appeared. As soon as he left, Seokwa stuck a charm on the faceless ghost. She forced it to tell her what it had just said to Jeonwoo. When Seokwa met Seong-hee, she had just finished reciting the spell to comfort the 99 souls that had been eaten by the evil spirit Bong-soo. She immediately dragged Seong-hee with her, but Jeonwoo appeared and ruined her intention. Now Seong-hee and Bong-soo were one. Seokwa knew that if she let Seong-hee escape this time, she would not be able to catch Seong-hee again because Seokwa did not have much strength left. Before leaving, Seokwa also told Jeonwoo to run away quickly if he saw Seong-hee because she could kill him at any time. Of course, Jeonwoo did not believe what Seokwa had just said. He picked up Seong-hee's hat. Jeonwoo stood alone in the middle of the forest. He didn't look for Seong-hee anymore because he knew that if Seong-hee really wanted to appear, she wouldn't have run away like that. 2 years later, life continued on. Jeonwoo had successfully become an excellent archer because he often had to compete away from home. Jiho moved to Jeonwoo's house to keep watch. Today, Jeonwoo received bad news. The shaman Cheong just passed away peacefully. He also wanted to go and light an incense stick for her. Butler Kim sent the protective talisman back to Jeonwoo on her behalf. Until her last moment, she still prayed for peace for him and Seong-hee. Jeonwoo put one of his gold medals in Seong-hee's drawer. As soon as he stepped out of the room, he met Seokwa. She did not forget to remind Jeonwoo that if he saw Seong-hee in his dream, he should remember to ask where she was. At that time, Seokwa would come to purify Seong-hee, which meant that Seong-hee was dead. If Jeonwoo met her in real life, he should run quickly and call Seokwa. Returning home, Jeonwoo kept thinking about Seokwa's words. However, there was one thing he still did not tell her, which was that Jeonwoo kept having the same dream over and over again, but Seong-hee was not in it. When he woke up, Jeonwoo realized that he was in Seong-hee's dream, but this was just his guess, and Jeonwoo was not sure. Actually, this guess was completely correct. Seong-hee borrowed the dream to be able to see the person she loved. Bong-soo encouraged her to meet Jeonwoo in person, but Seong-hee was afraid that she would hurt Jeonwoo, so she ignored the idea. When Jeonwoo woke up from his dream, he suddenly remembered the image drawn on the board. He really felt that it was very familiar. When Jeonwoo thought for a while, he remembered that the image that appeared in the dream was Miss Hwang's residence. At this time, Bong-soo went to see Miss Hwang first. He wanted to ask for a talisman to curse Jeonwoo because he felt that he was too annoying. Of course, Miss Hwang did not agree. He was too used to Bong-soo's rudeness. Bong-soo found Miss Wang too boring. He was about to leave when Gyeon-woo arrived. Mr. Wang and Bong-soo panicked and did not know what to do. In the end, Mr. Wang had to stuff him into an empty box. Gyeon-woo had no idea what had happened before he arrived, so he honestly told Mr. Wang everything. He said that he felt like Sung-hee was very close to him, especially when Jeon-woo had dreams. His feelings about her were even more evident. Bong-soo in the box kept moving around because of discomfort. He hit the box hard, making Mr. Wang confused. He didn't know how to explain to Jeon-woo. Out of curiosity, Jeon-woo went over to take a look. He was surprised to see that the person in front of him was now Sung-hee. The naughty Bong-soo refused to stand still and ran very quickly towards the beach. Jeon-woo, of course, wouldn't let Sung-hee escape. He had been looking for her for 3 years. Suddenly, Bong-soo kissed Jeon-woo on the lips. He wanted to enter Jeon-woo's body but failed. At this moment, Bong-soo immediately said that he was not Sung-hee. These words made Jeon-woo very surprised. His face showed doubt and confusion. But then Jeon-woo still brought Bong-soo back home. When Bong-soo saw Ji-ho, he kissed him. This unexpected event made Ji-ho stunned and motionless for a moment. But Bong-soo was angry because he did not see any change. After all, he already knew this outcome. Since Bong-soo could not enter Jeon-woo's body, of course he could also not do that to Ji-ho. Jeon-woo and Ji-ho saw that the outfit Bong-soo was wearing looked very unsightly, so they gave him a more modest outfit. Because Bong-soo was not Sung-hee, his fashion sense also changed. No matter what outfit he wore, the other three did not like it. While the three were busy choosing clothes for Bong-soo, they heard Jin-eun appear outside the door. Ji-ho immediately pushed Bong-soo into the room to hide, but he refused to stay in the room. Jeon-woo knew that now was not the time to receive guests, so he found a reason to chase Jin-eun away, but he still did not want to leave. Finally, Jin-eun found out the shocking news that Sung-hee had returned. The news quickly spread to Sung-hee's friends. Everyone was extremely surprised. They did not think Sung-hee would appear in such a unique way. Hee-ji and Gaon immediately ran to Gyeon-woo's house. When Gaon saw Sung-hee, she could not hold back her emotions and burst into tears. Bong-soo just pretended to be Sung-hee. He successfully answered the questions and broke the suspicion of his friends. When Bong-soo saw everyone having fun, he suddenly remembered Sung-hee, who was lonely. He really felt sorry for her, so he burst into tears. When everyone had gone home, Gyeon-woo entered the room and asked Bong-soo how to meet Sung-hee. At the hour of the ox, he brought a candle into the room and woke her up. When Jeon-woo saw Sung-hee awake, he was heartbroken and quickly hugged her, but Bong-soo immediately burst out laughing, making Jeon-woo lose interest. Bong-soo was happy to see him being fooled. It was early in the morning and Jeon-woo was teased by Bong-soo and couldn't be happy. That night, when Jeon-woo went to the entertainment center with Ji-ho, he advised Jeon-woo not to be childish. After all, Bong-soo was a few years younger than the two of them, and besides, Bong-soo didn't always tease Jeon-woo. Ji-ho gave a teddy bear to Jeon-woo to take home. He advised Jeon-woo to use this to make up with Bong-soo. Ji-ho thought that this method would be effective. Jeon-woo returned home and saw Bong-soo sitting on the bed. He wanted Jeon-woo to die instead of Sung-hee. Her soul was currently cracking. Bong-soo had to quickly leave Sung-hee's body so she could live, but he couldn't go out because Sung-hee wouldn't let him go. Jeon-woo agreed to Bong-soo's request. Before the hour of the ox, Sung-hee returned. She panicked when she discovered that Bong-soo had entered Jeon-woo's body. Because Jeon-woo didn't want Sung-hee to worry, he reassured Sung-hee that she just needed to live happily and he would take care of everything else. The next morning, Ji-ho made the mixed noodles that Sung-hee liked. As soon as he saw her, he knew that the real Sung-hee had returned. Ji-ho felt a little sad as he watched Jeon-woo and Sung-hee eat and drink happily. He knew it was time for him to leave. As Ji-ho packed his things and left the house, his heart suddenly ached. That night, Jeon-woo took Bong-soo's ring and put it in his pocket. He kissed Sung-hee on the cheek and called So-kwa. He was forced to sacrifice his life to save Sung-hee. So-kwa and Jeon-woo then drove to the haunted house. She promised to help him pass on without any pain. Then she stuck a talisman on his forehead. After So-kwa removed the talisman, Bong-soo immediately possessed Jeon-woo. He said he didn't want to die alone. So-kwa had predicted this. She transferred 100 million won to Mr. Hwan and butler Kim. Then she hung up. That was So-kwa's farewell gift to her last two relatives. Bong-soo was a little curious when she saw So-kwa so calm. Wasn't So-kwa afraid of death? So-kwa had let go of everything, so she felt that death was no longer scary. So-kwa tied a red string around Bong-soo's hand. The two of them would go to hell together. Outside, Mr. Hwang was banging on the door continuously. Bong-soo immediately bit his hand and sealed the door. Now Miss Hwang couldn't do anything. As soon as he touched the door, he was stopped by Bong-soo's power. Miss Hwang's face turned pale with fear. Bong-soo really had terrifying power. Everyone here couldn't fight him. Even though the situation was very dangerous, Sung-hee didn't know anything. She was still immersed in her own dream and couldn't get out. When she woke up, it was already morning. When Sung-hee read So-kwa's last words to her, she rushed home and rushed straight to the main hall. Sung-hee begged the the gods to return to her as her master. She wanted to save Seokwa, Bongsu, and bring Gyeonwoo back. Inside the haunted house, Seokwa was struggling to cut the red thread one by one. Her and Bongsu's crimes were too many, so they couldn't die easily. Mr. Wong didn't have enough strength anymore, so he could only stand outside and scream Seokwa's name. Just when Song-hee was at her most desperate, she heard the sound of hurried footsteps. Sihan returned with an army led by her. Song-hee and her mother looked at each other with determined eyes. Now her strength seemed to have increased by 1,000 times. Sehan and her daughter immediately headed towards the haunted house. When Mr. Wong saw Sehan and Song-hee, he burst into tears. Song-hee used her sword to open the cursed door. When Seokwa saw Song-hee, she was speechless with surprise. Song-hee cut the last thread on Seokwa's hand. Miss Wong then pulled her out. Song-hee used her energy to connect with Bongsu. Not long after, Bongsu remembered his real name was John Bo. After Bongsu hugged Song-hee for the last time, he accepted to be released. He was truly a cute demon. John Bo escaped from Gyeonwoo and received the exorcism. The following days quickly returned to peace. Gyeonwoo continued to pursue his dream of becoming an archer. Now he no longer competed domestically but had tried to become a world-famous archer. Although Song-hee had tried to become a normal person, she still had to help ghosts who could not rest in peace from time to time. So after many twists and turns, Gyeonwoo and Song-hee were finally able to live happily together. Today's drama ends here. See you again in the next drama.